Those are Philips Fidelios, and that's probably like the best, like, consumer grade studio headphones. If you're trying,
I don't think we need like fucking
Bose, fucking
like some like rapper quality headphone where we're mixing. You know, that's the only genre of music that's predominantly mixed in headphones. By the way, most of the time you would do ambient studio monitoring, like. Which is crazy to me.
I wonder, is it because of how they mix it? Because everything is mostly digital. It's listened to. Okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense too.
Yeah, I mean, predominantly going to be listened to in a car or in headphones.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it makes sense. But
yeah, isn't that most music though?
Probably now, but not when it become a standard.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
I guess back in the day, like you would have people with boom boxes and stereos and shit.
But like, if you're going to like cut a metal record, you would mix that in ambient monitoring. Yeah. You wouldn't do it in headphones. It'd be studio monitors. So, country,
unless that's changed
rock,
too.
Same way. Yep.
Like,
well, they have a bigger stereophonic field too.
Okay.
Yep. So, like samples are going to come. They're not always going to be mono, but a lot of things are. And then like, things are going to sit in the mix differently with live instruments than they would be for. Not that it's necessarily a mono, but it's going to sit. Like guitars get panned wider than a sample would.
Right.
If you had two guitars, they get doubled, so it actually is. You're actually hearing four, whether you know it or not.
Huh.
So if you have two guitar players, you're actually hearing four. They get doubled, make it thicker sounding.
Is that
it gives it more of a live sound?
So like you would have, like looking at this, you see how there's currently 3 bars on the screen. If you had 4, all of them would be the same. Well, 2 would be one guitar and 2 would be the other guitar.
Yeah, exactly.
But they would both be mono.
Yeah, and they would be panned harder. Like guitar 1 would be hard one way, guitar 2 would be hard. That's the reason why you listen to a metal record. Like people like me and you are never going to drop a headphone and listen to an earbud because you're going to lose an entire part. That's the same reason. Like if you hear people listen to rap, they can drop a headphone and still hear everything. We can't. Like, you're going to lose a whole guitar if you drop a headphone.
Sense.
Yep. So. Yeah, especially anything like non-metal things, like if you listen to like Polyphia, that's like hard pan, so like you might lose
a lot.
Yeah,
and I really like it.
Bass generally sits in the middle.
Yeah,
of the mix most of the time. It's generally doubled and slightly left, slightly right. Versus guitars are going to be. You basically would mix a band the way you would see them on stage.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. I had to envision
you're getting a whole stereophonic field, you know. So it's surround sound versus regular stereo, basically, is the difference between mixing those things. Yep. So
music nerd hour.
I'm gonna talk a lot about that stuff. There's a million different. It's not. Those aren't necessarily hard rules. There's a million different ways to do that.
But those are just what you learned in school.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So
my schooling has been interesting.
Probably not near that fun.
No, I mean, most of it is kind of boring because, so I've got 2 classes. That's all I'm taking this semester. And it's a success class, which is incredibly easy, as you would expect. And then a Microsoft 365 applications class.
Which is probably easy for you.
Incredibly easy because I work with Microsoft Office every day at work.
And you're probably good at it anyway. Yeah. You're probably a little...
I'm pretty tech savvy, so anything that they are trying to teach me, like I can briefly skim over it and be like, "Oh, you want me to do this?" And then like if I'm missing some sort of context, I can Google it and figure it out. And it's like I have 100% on both of my classes so far. So
good for you, man.
And I'm 3 or 4 weeks ahead.
That's the benefit of doing something you're good at or interested in too.
Yeah. I would say I'm not like super interested in. Like,
well, it comes easy though.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like I really, really enjoy the research side of analytics. So if I can get into that field, that's what I want to do.
It's incredible. Analytics is incredibly beneficial to any sport you're in.
Yeah,
especially to powerlifting. Like you're numbers driven.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the biggest number driven sports are probably strength sports and baseball.
Yeah,
that's the whole premise of like Moneyball. If you watch that movie.
I did not.
They built a team based off of like on base percentage, like hitting percentage and stuff like that, and not just going and getting just like fucking lights out sluggers and perfect pitchers. They did it based off of like law of averages situation, if that makes sense. So,
no, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
It also makes me kind of think, like, why don't people do that? Like, I mean, I guess
they do now.
Right.
Like, more likely to build a team like that now. But that was like the premise of that movie is that was the first person.
Yeah.
Billy, somebody, Ron would know this because he's a baseball nerd.
Yeah.
But I can't remember the guy's name. But
your other guy too, he probably would know, wouldn't he? The guy that plays baseball, kid.
Brody would probably know. Yeah. And Joey Miller would probably know because he's a much bigger baseball fan than I am too. I'm a very casual baseball fan.
Are you rocking a Coleman barbell jersey?
No, I wish it was though. I have thought about this. So this is a Shoresy jersey from the show Shoresy.
I just saw
they play for the Sudbury Bulldogs.
Okay,
and it's his captain's jersey. It's actually a sweater if you're talking about it in hockey terms. Mm-hmm. It's my only hockey jersey, and it's from a made-up team.
Right.
But I like it so much that I have thought about replacing the hockey stick with a barbell and doing like a spoof logo.
I mean, that would be pretty cool, honestly.
But it's a pretty badass jersey. Also got this does not take away from my Steelers fandom whatsoever. It's an Auburn fandom thing, but also got a badass retro like 80s like what they wore like period correct like crop top Bo Jackson Raiders jersey, which is badass. Awesome. That's awesome. I thought of your brother when I got that. Yeah. But yeah, it's like period correct, so it's the same fit that you would have worn in the 80s if you actually in early 90s if you would have played football there.
Yeah.
So it's kind of cool. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Was it like something that they just did? Like they just made it?
There's a company that makes like legit like retro jerseys like down to the fitment, and I don't remember the name of the brand, but yeah, I mean it's a period correct Raiders Bo Jackson jersey, so it's pretty fucking cool. Your brother would definitely probably like it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. He probably wouldn't wear it personally because he's a little. I don't think he'd wear a crop top.
Well, I don't think you. I mean, you wouldn't wear it without something under it, probably. Right. But because it's thinner mesh than a modern football jersey is too.
Right.
Like it's definitely see-through mesh. You know what I mean? But
okay. Hey, some people are definitely.
It's like old school mesh for real. Like it's like. You probably could have. If you've ever seen old football highlights, you can see their pads underneath, underneath their jerseys. So I mean, but it's still a pretty badass shirt for Christmas. I got a good Christmas gifts in that I didn't get too much. I hate getting too much for Christmas. It was like, what the fuck are you going to do with it? And there was no like useless gifts.
Right. I
got a bunch of beach towels, which sounds dumb, but I'm a very big man and I hate showering with a regular size towel. So I got a bunch of beach towels, the Bo Jackson jersey. Sandy got me the Shoresy sweater, and then a couple of card games, like shit that we like to do when we're drinking, stuff like that. But it's very to the point, and I appreciate gifts like that. So no bullshit. Yeah. Nothing that's going to end up in the yard sale this spring.
That's good.
You know, you're a good gift giver if it doesn't get given or re-gifted or end up in the yard sale.
or put in the closet and just left. Storage, whatever.
One reason why Christmas stressed me out, other than the financial just like burden that Christmas is that people that have known you your whole life buy you gifts like they don't know you at all. It's like, you know that you have to know that I'm never going to use this. Like, can you at least pretend like you know a little something about me?
I'm probably I'm not a big holiday person in general, but like if somebody gets me socks and underwear, I'm pretty stoked.
I mean, I am too, because at least it's not going in a yard sale this spring, right? Like that's fine.
As long as it's like good quality underwear. Socks, as long as it's decent, I'm fine. But the underwear has to be like nice. But if you buy me a couple pairs of nice underwear,
as a gym goer, I do want high quality socks and underwear. I can't lie to you, because I beat the fuck out of them, because I work in gym clothes too. On top of lifting in gym clothes, I work in them. So like I go through gym clothes a lot. So that's a good gift. Like if you don't know what to buy somebody, give them cash or a gift card, man. Like don't buy them junk.
Amazon gift card, unless they are anti-Amazon for some reason, probably is really safe bet.
Yeah, I mean, just go let them buy what they want to at that point.
Or just groceries. Like
it's okay to admit that you're not a good gift giver and just give them cash or give them a gift card. Like,
I mean, if
don't buy them junk.
If you're going to pay for my groceries for 1 week or pay for my
food's always
bill,
a good chance. I mean, a restaurant gift card's fine. Like,
Like, hey, I know you like Cheesecake Factory. Here's a gift.
Yeah, like that's fine, but like just buy a useful gift.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't buy a gift from the heart, just buy something useful.
Yeah.
Like,
just don't bring me some sort of like random craft thing that I just don't give a shit about. Like, if you made it, I will probably respect cool. it a lot. Whatever it is, if you made it by your own, like, but if you bought something crafty or something and it's some garbage I could care less about, probably going in the trash. You just wasted your money, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Christmas is stressful, and I'm happy it's over. Yeah, I can imagine it's going to get more fun having a daughter.
Yeah, buying the gifts and stuff. We bought a few things. She wasn't excited about much other than Mickey Mouse stuff. She did. We got her, and this is not me being brand loyal or whatever. We did buy her like a little Target shopping cart because it was cheap. It was only like $15 or something, and with my discount, it was even cheaper. But like, she was super excited about that because she gets to put her Mickey dolls in it and push it around, and she loves that thing.
Sonny got a little, like, is it Play School? Is that the name of the brand? Whatever it is, picnic table, and she's obsessed with that. Like, she colors on it, she climbs on it, sits on it, and wants to sit there and eat. Like, she's obsessed with that. It's like simple. Kids are really good at appreciating simple things. To be honest with you. She liked the process of unwrapping things, but she was also then so distracted by the gifts that it was like hours between unwrapping presents, at least at our house Christmas Day. She would unwrap a couple at a time, play with whatever, and then
and then maybe unwrap.
Yeah.
She was not super interested in unwrapping anything.
It took Sonny a while to get like into it.
Yeah, she didn't even want to really rip anything. I think she was like worried she was going to break it, but it also had Minnie on the wrapping paper. So she was like more interested in looking at it than ripping it up. So
yeah. Also, I don't know how, I don't know the efficacy of wrapping paper for toddler, basically.
Yeah.
I think I'm probably going to go more bag oriented.
We did a few bags, and then we wrapped like 3 or 4.
She liked the paper on top of the bags, I think, more than she liked unwrapping like real gifts. So
yeah, that's just going to be something that'll be as they get older. I think it'll make more sense. But
yeah, 100%. But some things we just left. The Santa Claus gifts we just left unwrapped and just like presented them to her like Christmas morning.
Right.
That was fun. But like I said, she got so distracted by what she already had that she didn't care much about the next thing until she was like bored of it and ready to open something new. And then she really liked the Christmas trees. So
yeah,
we hadn't done a Christmas tree in years. Did one for her, and it was loud. Me and Sandy would have never have picked out these colors, but Sonny, for whatever reason, despite being in the gym all the time, Sandy is not super, super girly. Like, doesn't necessarily call her a tomboy, but she doesn't dress flashy, doesn't care about nails, hair, makeup, that kind of thing. Right. Those kind of things come easy to Sandy, so she probably just doesn't need them, as I can imagine, why she's not interested in it. But she's not really a girly girl. And Sonny's not around girly girls, but for whatever reason, on her own, she loves bright colors and maybe flashy things. She's a girly girl, and she loves like pink, green, blue, stuff like that. So our Christmas tree was loud. It was like all like Barbie-esque colors. Like I always do white Christmas lights. We had colored Christmas lights this year, like blue, green, pink, like purple. Like that was the tree this year. And that was so out of character for us, for sure.
Well, I mean, Desi's the same way. She's not very girly, but
I don't know how my kid just decided.
It's the same, though. Like, she loves pink. Like, Cora loves the color pink and purple. And, like,
I don't know. It happens, I guess. Yeah. But, like,
all
about it. You know what I mean? Yeah, she might, but both of them might. But it's just it is kind of funny, though.
Yeah.
It's like naturally just
drawn to those. I mean, I think it may just be because it's attention catching.
Like, it might be, yeah, because she's obsessed with, like, if somebody has a necklace on, she really likes to be held by somebody with a necklace because she wants to play with it. Yep. And yeah, everything else, like, she likes flashy shit. She might grow out of it, she might not, who knows. But got her a bunch of like ear training tools for like music too. She got a bunch of like musical instruments. She got a drum and like maracas and stuff like that. But I got her real diatonic, like C scale, like ear training bells. So like she could pick these bells up and like course, it would have to take me like being willing to play in the key of C, but
right.
she could pick any of these bells up as long as I'm playing in the key of C. She can play along, but
right.
Basically get her used to like what a major scale sounds like, stuff like that. So that's pretty cool.
Cool.
Right now, she just picks a random one up and beats the hell out of it. But
it makes noise.
It makes noise, and that's good enough. I don't know. I mean, we may have tortured ourselves by buying those. I don't know. But I really wanted her to have them, and she seems to enjoy them, so that's kind of fun.
That's worth it if she's having fun with it. I mean, it might suck for a little while while it's annoying, but like seeing them happy and having fun is kind of like
you can tell what type of music I listen to based on how the baby responds to it in the gym. And like I've been listening to this stuff since obviously she was in the womb, literally. And when Kublai Khan plays in the gym, the kid just like goes crazy and starts dancing and shit like that. Like, she's definitely already a metalhead for sure. Like she likes metal and hardcore a lot. So that's kind of fun too. Like,
that is fun.
It's important to expose your kids to good music and not shit.
Yeah. Oh man. When I was leaving the gym one day, these kids were playing this terrible, like just the worst mumble rap garbage I've ever heard. And I only heard it because my music was off because I was walking out. And I can't even remember what the line was. It was like, as I was leaving, I heard like, "I'm a motherfucking gangster" or something like that. And I was like, that's so cringe. That is
it's pretty good rap's not like that though.
It's not.
Like,
good rap is even written well.
Even when it is like hyper violent and stuff like that, it tells a good story and shit like that. I'll tell you a record I'm disappointed in because I am a big rap fan. I've always been a fan of his. The new Kendrick Lamar record sucks.
Oh, really?
It sucks. And there's going to be people that I'm going to get absolutely fucking flamed for that probably. But the new Kendrick Lamar fucking sucks. Well, nothing like the rest of this stuff at all. It was a money grab for sure. I was
going to say, tried something new. You never know.
I don't know if he even tried. That's the problem.
I need money.
It was a money grab. Yeah, it was. I've been a big advocate and defender of him, mostly because I love the fact that he hates Drake because I hate Drake too.
I think a lot of people
Drake fucking sucks, and he's a fucking kid diddler. So
yeah,
just
yeah, it's kind of hard
to say
that
about Drake. Yeah. Like fucking punk ass. He's a Disney kid too, so like all his fame was like built in too. So like he didn't work hard for shit.
Disney and cash grab, the new Mufasa movie. I haven't watched it.
There's no way that's good.
I've heard from like some people who have seen it. They say, "Oh, it's really good." I'm like, you're probably somebody who grew up watching Disney your whole life, and that's the only reason why you think it's good. But
something that's going to upset people a whole lot is I think The Lion King's a
crappy movie,
subpar Disney movie.
It's fine. Like the first one is fine. Like it's not. I wouldn't say it's bad. But
that's the problem though. Is it's just. I would agree that it's fine.
It's not a top tier movie. It's fine. No. It has a banger song, but that's about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's soundtrack of Disney movies is like kind of what makes Disney movies, right? But like, I don't think you can compare it to like Aladdin. Of course, Robin Williams is the reason why Aladdin is awesome.
Aladdin is a good one. I didn't watch it a ton as a kid.
My favorite will always be The Jungle Book, but
Jungle Book is good too.
Yeah, but I mean that's that older era. Like
Lion
King's like the first of like new era Disney movies. I think
I grew up with Toy Story, so that was.
I hate Toy Story.
I will always love Toy Story because I grew up with it.
Do you follow the Movie Detective at all?
No.
You should. Instagram, TikTok. He's on Facebook too, whatever you want to do. But he ties all kind of movies together, but all of his fan theories on Disney's are like, they'll make you go like, what the fuck? Like he ties all the movies together and like explains hidden meanings and stuff. So since this one's relevant, the Santa Claus, right? Mm-hmm. You've watched Tim Allen's The Santa Claus. Yeah. I don't know if it's a Disney movie or not. I don't really remember. So Santa Claus falls off his roof, dies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Tim Allen becomes Santa Claus, right? Well, this guy pointed out the fact that like there's elves present in a lot of scenes before Santa Claus dies. So his theory is that Santa Claus picked Tim Allen to replace him and faked his own death to get out of being Santa Claus because there's elves, and you can go back and watch. There's elves present in several scenes before he becomes Santa Claus. Like, so like they knew of him and had already picked him out prior to him becoming Santa Claus.
That's interesting.
Yeah. You can go back and watch it. They're there 100%. Like,
did you know, let me pull this up because I don't want to misquote it, but a friend of mine was telling me he got hooked on some Cars lore or fan theories or whatever you want to call it. It was pretty wild. Let's see. First thing he said was, did you know that in the second movie, the Pope Mobile shows up, which means that Catholicism is in fact
Catholicism.
Catholicism, is that
yeah.
But it exists in the Cars universe. So there is religion. There's also TSA and canon spinoff. The canon spinoff movie Planes, which implies that 9/11 also happened. I was kind of like, does that mean that like the plane it was a living plane that crashed into the Twin Towers? Like it made the decision.
Disneyverse, yeah.
It's like, goddamn.
Pretty dark. So do you remember the Keanu Reeves? I'm a big Keanu Reeves fan. Do you remember the Keanu Reeves movie with Al Pacino, The Devil's Advocate? Mm-mm. You do know because it's comic book stuff. You do and have watched Constantine though.
I don't know that I've watched it, but I know of it.
There is a fan theory that The Devil's Advocate is a prequel to
Constantine,
and it is pretty compelling if you watch them back to back. Now the names of the Keanu Reeves characters are different,
right?
But he plays a Southern lawyer. Basically gets hired at a New York City firm, Chicago firm, some big city. And Al Pacino's the devil, but he's a big, really wealthy, popular lawyer, right? And Keanu Reeves works for him, and he's he picks up smoking again. He had quit sometime in the movie, and that's a big part of the story of Constantine. Is he's dying of lung cancer, right? Constantine. But I can't say how the movie ends, but with the way it ends, it's a little ambiguous. And then when the way Constantine picks up, it really does play out like Constantine's a sequel to The Devil's Advocate. Now, Constantine, I think it's a Dark Horse comic. Constantine's a character, I think, of Dark Horse.
I can't remember.
But it is a comic book movie, and The Devil's Advocate isn't, but they do play out like prequel and sequel, though, which is pretty cool. You should watch those. I like fan theory stuff. I also love Easter eggs and shows and movies and stuff like Office Easter eggs pop up everywhere. It is actually
DC Comics. I was thinking it was because I was like, I feel like I remember him being in a show like the Future Heroes of Tomorrow or something like that. I can't remember. It was if it's
DC Comics, that's arguably, other than Christopher Nolan's Batman movies, that's arguably the best DC comic movie.
Yeah.
That movie fucking rocks, dude. That movie's fucking cool.
Just so that, I don't remember if you said it on the podcast last time you were here, but just so that everybody knows, Zach is not a big fan of the new trailer for Man of Tomorrow, I think is what it's called. I am.
That's another, we've already had a whole podcast on it. That's another superheroes not looking super.
See, that's the thing. When I saw him in the suit, I was like, he really needed a muscle suit because he's just not big enough, like in regular clothes. Yeah. He went to the gym, respect. He got in decent shape, respect. He's just not big.
You mean he doesn't look like the Man of Steel?
No, he does not.
I mean, you should at least like look like
you should
be like physically lean and like visibly muscular.
Yeah.
Like, not saying for Superman, you don't have to be like. You don't
need 280, 300
Yeah, you don't need to look like Brock Lesnar, but like...
But, I mean, Henry Cavill looked big in the movie, and it may have been the muscle suit, like, it definitely helps, but, like, even when he was not wearing the suit, he still looked big.
Right.
And, he's not huge, like, Alan Richardson is bigger than he is.
Yeah.
But, and I actually really want to see that movie that both of them star in, or co-star in. I forget what it's called. It's like...
I remember
Gentlemanly Warfare, something like that.
I watched Alan Richardson in Blue Mountain State.
Oh, okay.
Is where I know him from. He plays really dumbass linebacker. And
he's had a lot of those roles.
Yeah.
He's finally getting some like real like main character roles, which is cool. Reacher, I think, was his first. He was also in one of the He was in the first and second season of Titans, which was... Not bad, but not good. It was weird and very different in its own way, and it tried to be very dark and edgy and Snyderverse style, but it felt very forced. So sometimes it was very, very miss, but sometimes it would hit really, really hard.
Yeah. Have you watched The Boys?
I can't. I
feel like I should, and I haven't.
It's just too much. Like, there comes a limit to what I can tolerate.
It was described to me as what the X-Men should have been.
If superheroes were real, this is exactly what it would be like. And it's just very, very rough. My brother watched it. He loves it. He said he tells me all the time. It's really good if you can get past all of the fucked up shit that's in it.
I know there's a lot of fucked up
shit.
There's a
lot of shit. I mean, the very first scene, like, have you seen the very first scene with the speedster guy?
Yeah, running through the guy's girlfriend.
Yeah, it's just like, damn. Like, my boss at the time showed me that, and I was just like, man, I just don't know if I can watch this. Like, it's not even that it bothered me so much, like the actual scene or anything, but it's just like, I just don't know if I can. And also, I mean, don't get me wrong, the character Homelander is very, very compelling, and the guy who does the acting for it, I forget his name.
It's been great for memes.
Yeah,
it's been great for memes,
and he's like great, but like I just don't think I can sit. The show before the show has been going on way too long.
Yeah, we got on some tangents. We're drinking old fashions again. Basil Hayden's old fashions. Y'all know how to make them. Fuck.
I'm drinking a third of one. Technically,
yeah, he wanted enough for a taste, but technically he's not officially drinking because of prep things. So
I don't need to do too much damage to my liver anymore. Listen, that meme, my liver is reserved for drugs. that's basically where I'm at right now. Which I'm not like taking a shit ton of gear.
Yeah, we know how we feel about that. A shit ton just doesn't.
It doesn't do.
The efficacy is not worth the risk.
Yep. Especially when you get the same benefit with less risk.
If you get to the point that you can't sleep.
Yeah, you're just pissing in the
wind. Yeah, 100%. I don't really identify with that, but y'all know that already.
Yep. We don't have to go on that.
That's the show before the show. Drink old fashions and
Scooter's coffee.
And watch comic book shit because we do. And we like, even though I'm really bitter about most of it.
I'm really bitter about most Marvel things now because I feel like Disney has just that well is dry. Like there's 3 or 4 comic book movies coming out. I'm excited for exactly one of them, and excited is
we touched on this a little bit, but like they got the anthology wrong. Like if it was anthology played out the same way that Star Wars was played out in anthology, or the same way the Lord of the Rings played out in anthology, where it's not like. It's really not too distant from the original stories.
Yeah.
It would have been more compelling, I think.
I feel like they don't have a good direction right now, and there's just too much. I know they're trying to get things in line. They had this whole thing. They were going to have Kang be their big deal, and then that actor got in trouble for whatever the fuck he got in trouble for. And so like, we're not going to do Kang. Now we're going to do Doom. But Doom is Robert Downey Jr., and it's like, that's fucking weird. Like, and I'm just like, and there's so much multiverse stuff that it's getting too much
convoluted.
Like there comes a point where it's cool, and there comes a point where it's just too much.
What they got right was, I'll say this again, of course it's on Disney now, but the Netflix MCU was good because it was adjacent, and they make references to the incident all the time.
Yeah,
I'm talking about from the Avengers
but
movie.
it was never directly.
But it was never like there's a brand new set of characters, brand new set of problems, but it exists in the same like timeline. That's cool. That's getting anthology right. But now just like taking random characters that nobody gives a fuck about. Like, listen, everybody has some character that's like obscure that they like and that nobody else likes. But the problem with that is it doesn't sell, and it's not compelling enough to make a fucking movie series about. I mean, let's be honest.
In fairness, Iron Man was that character for a long time. He was very much a B character. And then
but at least though you had like pop culture that made references to him, whether it's Black Sabbath, or if you were a big Spider-Man fan, he was present in the TV show, stuff like that. Like everybody, if you watch Spider-Man, everybody knew about Iron Man.
Right.
Like the only one of those characters they got right was Black Panther.
Yeah,
I'll stand by that.
I think his character is the only one that didn't. Well,
universally, I think we all have a soft spot for Chadwick Boseman too.
Yeah. He was such a good actor, and also the guy that was with him that played
Michael
the
B.
villain.
Jordan.
He is a great actor too. Honestly.
Yeah, I like Michael B. Jordan movies in general. He's really fucking good.
Yeah.
Like,
I wish they would have done more with him. I wish they wouldn't have given him a character just to die.
I wish that was a character that stuck around, like
even
Joker-esque or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's somebody that could have been an anti-hero, like Venom or somebody like that. Could have been developed
for more than just flashback scenes and stuff.
100%. I don't think that's a character you kill off because he was so fucking good.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
more comic book tangents.
Yeah,
Here we go.
Show before the show. All right, this is the Sip and Rippin' podcast. You can follow us at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios, at Sip It and Rip It. Watch us on YouTube. Listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever the fuck you get podcasts. You can listen to us anywhere. To quote Andy Frisella in the Real AF podcast, don't sue us. Don't be a host. Share the show, please. And you're here. We're in the middle of the show now, so this is it. Show before the show's ended. It might need to get edited out. I don't know. For the sake of
time, maybe.
We didn't say anything.
We didn't say anything defensive.
We didn't say anything like politically risque. Like,
I think the last episode was significantly more.
In general, yeah, we may have got a little bit of heat for that. Not a lot. My stance on that was some things I said last time was defended and intelligent and respectful way. Yeah. So, and it was nothing to do with the actual topic. It was something we said about, body positivity.
Yeah.
So, which I respect.
We could say a lot. I mean, I have my opinions. I don't think I need to say anything, but like, there's positives and negatives to body positivity.
Yeah, 100%. I think really what I realize is that a lot of my issues are things that are adjacent to body positivity and not body positivity itself. Right. If that makes sense. So.
If you are healthy and you are confident, perfect.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's no problem.
I don't care what you weigh.
Yeah, like nobody.
That's a big thing with bodybuilders is that they're technically obese or morbidly obese, but they are fucking jacked.
Yeah, it's because BMI fucking sucks though. Like
BMI sucks. It's not a good indicator for health.
It is not. But Jake, you hear Jay Cutler talk about this in interviews. Like, your heart doesn't know 300 pounds is 300 pounds to your heart. You know what I mean? Like,
now that is true.
You know what I mean? Like. And you're probably pumping a lot more blood to muscle than you are to fat. So I mean, I guess there is a point of diminishing returns either way. And we talk about it all the time. That's the reason why, 198 pound powerlifter like John Hack can be stronger than any bodybuilder a lot stronger than any bodybuilder. Significantly. I mean, muscle mass moves mass, and it does have a higher strength potential. But you see that in Kyle Curvey, right? But like, by and large, it doesn't necessarily translate directly to.
Yeah. The strength potential is there, but it's not what is required for strength. There are certain CNS adaptations that are required for strength.
Skeletal adaptations?
Yep. Like, your joints, all that stuff. Anyway.
Yeah.
Before we go off on more tangents.
I mean, that may be what this episode is. Who knows? What did you do in the gym this week?
This week was deload week, so I didn't do much. I actually missed a day due to some stuff I had to do outside of working in the gym, just like
bummer shit.
Huh?
Kind of stuff that shit was kind of a bummer.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's fine though. I kind of did a squat and bench day together at the end of the week instead of doing a squat day and a bench day. Accessories got a little skimmed over, but it was kind of just one of those things. It's deload week. I'm not super stressed about it. I'd rather just not have to take away any more time from my weekend to get another day, and then on a deload week and was it Christmas week?
Mm-hmm. That's Christmas week.
See, man, I don't even know what day it is anymore.
Yeah, I didn't miss a single workout, fortunately. But I mean, still not deadlifting. Probably could not. Lat's a lot better. First leg day is basically accessory movements at this point. And some lat rehab, some hip rehab stuff. Do a little bit of hip rehab stuff every day, and I feel like it's making me a lot better. Ron had already programmed a lot of the stuff that I just learned in rehab, so but we got some daily stuff that I'm doing now. Seems to be making me a lot better. Super, super efficient in terms of getting me warmed up for squats. So if nothing else, squats are just more comfortable because I'm doing these things. So, but basically it boils down to hip stability. So Day one is pretty much just posterior accessories, I would say. So whether it's back or hamstrings or whatever, that's pretty much what I did. Day two was bench. It was not my best bench day. I kind of ate shit on bench. I was programmed 345 for 3 sets of 6. I had it for 5, 3, and 2. Me and Ron agrees just residual fatigue from the bench comp still. Yeah. I hit an all-time PR at bench comp. It was like an RP 8, so it probably have more in me.
What was it?
410.
410. Yeah, because
I made the jump to 430 and then probably should have called up 420 or so. But the realistic thing about that is it wouldn't have changed my standing.
Yeah.
So why get under it?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially after I already missed 430. But I did that and then a bench AMRAP for a side bet. And it just took a lot out of me, to be honest with you. I've been smoked since then on bench. So we're deloading bench this week, but ate shit on bench, ate shit on floor press for the same reason. Mm-hmm. First time collectively that I haven't made my bench volume in years probably. Typically just adapt really quick to upper body stuff. So like I can hammer it a little bit harder than I do most things. And it finally called up to me. And it's going to happen, over the course of years. I've had pretty good luck on bench volume.
But also, you're talking about 2 different maximal effort lifts.
Yeah, both of them were near maximal effort. I had close grip floor press, 315 for 3 sets of 6.
No, I mean that.
Oh yeah,
the comp.
Yeah, both for a max and for
a rep max.
A rep max. I fell short of my rep max, but obviously you're going to after pressing to a brand new 1 rep.
But you went to failure. Is
exactly,
what I mean.
Yeah.
Like you literally.
I went to failure 2 different ways.
Yeah,
both in endurance and in strength. So it was incredibly fatiguing, and I'm just eating shit because of that, pretty much. I did do JM presses with 2 plates this week, which is dope. I've only know personally one other person that's ever done that, and that was Justin.
I was about to say.
I did not hit it for as many reps, but I did do that. So that's kind of cool. Did set PRs in front squat and high bar. Pausing front squats now. Hit my old rep max for 1 rep max for a set of 6 paused. So I would say that I'm significantly better at front squats. And in the process of that, I had a rib head slip out and thought I had messed up like a spinal erector or like had a lower lat injury on my right side. And it ended up, I had just taken my belt in because I've been losing weight with Ron. And then the Christmas bloke got me, so my new belt adjustment was a little tight.
Yep.
And it basically, my brace caused me to pop a rib out of place. Mm-hmm. Thought I'd fucked my back up pretty good. Massage therapist put my rib back in. Haven't had a problem since. That's shortness of breath is really bad with that. It did it on like rep 2 of a set of 6. So I was like, at that point, I'm like, fuck it, as long as it holds, as long as it doesn't tear, because I think it's muscle at that point.
Yeah.
As long as it don't tear, I'm going to keep fucking going. The first time I feel it slip,
right,
I'm going to quit. But like, it didn't. It did hurt more and more progressively, but it didn't. So I hit that PR, went on to miss my bench the next day, and then the next day I hit a high bar PR. That's after my rib had been set back in and stuff. So didn't have a problem with high bar at all. Doesn't lean you as forward as much, so the brace against my belt and stuff didn't put my ribs as bad of a position if they would have otherwise. So also by that point the bloat had worn off, belt was fitting a little bit better. So stuff like that. So all in all, a good week. Just fatigue caught up with me. So probably expected when you're not peaked for an event like that.
Yeah.
So
it was just fortunate for me that I had already been in prep, so I was already like used to
kind of semi-peaked.
Semi-peaked, yeah. I'd been hitting heavy singles for a few weeks.
Still the heaviest you'd hit in prep this time's like what 405, and you ended up hitting 455 easy. Like,
what did I hit? Was it just 405? Maybe.
I think so, for like a double or something, or triple. I know you said you didn't move. You didn't move it like you wanted to, but he was a little bit more prepared. Joey, I feel like, was a little bit underprepared. Yep. But he just got out of a meet.
Mm-hmm. Into volume.
And into volume, yeah. The heaviest he had hit was like 350.
Yeah.
And he ended up pressing 405, so it was kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, just fatigue got on my ass. So deloading bench this week, pressing on squats one more week. I think I'm gonna have to set another front squat PR.
Yep.
In order to continue front squatting. And then I have an open-ended RP9 high bar, which I kind of expect to be 465, 475-ish, which isn't, I realize that's not a great squat, but my high bar has always been significantly lower, like 100 pounds lower than my low bar, so I hope that it bodes well for
your low bar.
Yep. Yeah. So we'll see.
If I didn't hurt so bad, I'd really be interested to try low bar and see what I've gotten from my high bar squatting. But I tried not too long ago just to see, and it hurt, and I was just like, I'm not. Yeah,
I mean, that Squat University talks about there's some people that are deeply affected by pelvic tilt, and some people that it's just natural and it's just how they squat and it doesn't bother them. I would still coach it as being wrong,
right?
Personally. But you have some people that squat, 800 pounds with a little pelvic tilt, and it's fine.
If you follow Brooke Reynolds, who was on the podcast before, she has a ton of tilt when she squats. She goes super deep. And she's like, I'm great. And I'm just, every time I look at her, I'm just like, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Not her, but just I wish I could do that and not hurt, but it just.
I mean, the best I can tell, it's basically your hamstrings drawing your pelvis forward.
Yep.
And it probably depends a lot on me and you don't have super flexible hamstrings, I'd imagine. I don't squat with any pelvic tilt, regardless of what type of squat I have. So probably just very much depends on the person.
Yeah.
If you have super mobile hamstrings, it's probably not that big of a deal.
And it may be that I just need to stretch more and get some mobility in my hamstrings, but right now I don't have the time to invest in it. I don't have the time to invest in anything right now.
But that's fair. I mean, you got to get it how you can get it, and right now we're squatting as good high bar as we did low bar, so
better.
Fuck it. You know what I mean?
My high bar or my low bar was 562,
and you got 572 at the least. High bar. So I mean,
I'm not terribly worried about it. Also, I just feel more comfortable.
I mean, if it's you got to go to the most progressible thing, at least at the moment, right? So, I will say that I had elbow pain for the first time ever in high bar, and I don't know if it was just because I was probably a little underfed and bracing, not necessarily bracing, but I was wrenching the bar into me more than I normally would, more than what's comfortable probably. So that was a little odd, but I've probably lost some mobility in my upper back from the lat injury.
Yeah.
So that's probably, my back rack felt more like a low bar, despite it being a high bar position than it did. Everything felt tighter in general. Yeah. So I'm gonna attribute it to that. But it's kind of an odd week in that regard. But PRs are PRs, baby.
Yep.
I'm not so sure that even though I failed miserably at my bench press, I'm not so sure that 345 for 6 wasn't pretty close to. I think that would have been, if I would have hit it, it probably would have been a volume PR.
Yeah.
For total volume.
I don't know what you've hit for.
I mean, I've hit best volume PRs 385 for 3 on close grip.
Yeah.
But bigger people, the higher the reps get, the harder the set gets. We don't recover as well. So, you got PR songs?
There it is. I was about to say, I know I do. Well, I might just have one. I might have a PR song. And you probably won't be a huge fan of it because I know you're not a big Chelsea Grin fan, but Deathbed Companion by Chelsea Grin. Pretty good.
I'm not going to turn it off. Probably not going to choose it.
Right.
I'm not going to turn it off.
I get that. That song specifically is more fun than a lot of their other music, in my opinion.
I'm not a big fan of what's the other hardcore band kind of like metalcore band, deathcore band kind of like that.
Carnifex.
Yeah, see, Carnifex is very the songs I like are very good, and then the songs I don't are fuck, this sucks. I feel the same way about Born of Osiris.
Yeah,
the songs I like a whole lot.
They've got a handful of songs that I really enjoy. I like a lot more Carnifex than I do Born of Osiris, but the whole I think it's Black Candles Burning or something, that whatever album that is with the skull and the candle on it.
Yeah.
I really like that album. And then their newest album was a lot more death metal-y than deathcore-y. And I can't remember what it's called, but it was really good.
I kind of am, because I've become a bigger hardcore fan, I'm a bigger and bigger fan of keep hardcore out of my metal and keep metal out of my hardcore
That's fair.
than I used to be, probably. Still love deathcore, though. My first entry is a song called Low Class by a new band to me called Actus Reus. It's a badass song. Listen to it.
I'm going to put on something that probably nobody else would really listen to in the gym. Well, there's probably some other nerds like me, but there's a song called "Live and Learn" by Crush 40. If you probably have no idea what I'm talking about,
no,
most people probably don't, but it is the title song for Sonic Adventure 2, and it's really, really good. And I went to see, and this is spoilers, so if you're going to see Sonic 3, I just spoiled it for you. But that song plays at the end, and it gets me hyped because like that's my childhood, and I'm just like,
hell yeah, I get it. I mean,
that whole movie, side tangent, that whole movie was such a good fucking love letter to the old school, well, not old school, the 90s and early 2000s Sonic games. If you like those, you need to go see it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't play Sonic outside of like Genesis stuff.
Yeah.
So I was one of those families where the Genesis console stayed at my grandparents and Nintendo console stayed at our house. So don't know why, but that's just the way it worked out.
Yeah.
But I played a lot more than Nintendo-based games, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
Mortal Kombat on Sega Genesis was fucking abysmal because of the three button combos versus 4-button combos was like, it was super lame.
Yeah, I imagine so. But I also like, I'm talking about like, we're talking like Nintendo, GameCube, Sega, Dreamcast era.
Yeah, so I didn't play any Dreamcast. I didn't play any GameCube.
GameCube was good. Dreamcast was very just, it was ahead of its time in a lot of ways because it tried to do online multiplayer.
It has a lot of modern defenders of it now.
Well, it tried to do a lot of stuff that is really popular now before the technology was really good. So
that's
like,
fair.
It took a lot of really, really good ideas that are really popular now, but it just didn't succeed on them.
I hate the name of this band so bad I'm almost embarrassed to enter it because it's the worst band name I've ever heard. But the band's actually good, and it's definitely metalcore, but they have a new song. It's not a new song at all. I'm sorry. It came out in 2020. It's old as fuck. There's a song called Creep by Alpha Wolf that's bad as fuck, so listen to it. That's a surprising. You would think it would be like Breaking Benjamin or Disturbed-esque band, but they're not because the band name's so bad.
Yeah.
But
the name,
but it's much better than that. It's a very bad band name.
That
like, it sounds like Five Finger Death Punch or something like that. Like,
I was gonna say some sort of like Southern hardcore that isn't very hard. You know what I mean? Like it makes me think of Bucked Up, like the brand.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like
the name of
I guess on a powerlifting podcast it makes sense, but like for a metal band, and they're much better than their name. I'm sure they had to have gotten together when they were kids,
right?
And just never changed the band name, like because Alpha Wolf is just a dog shit band name. I can't lie to you. That's like it is definitely gonna. You know, if you told me guess what Alpha Wolf sounds like, I would have definitely guessed like something horrible like Disturbed or Godsmack or something.
Yeah.
Disturbed, probably.
you just have a rage boner for Disturbed, man.
Dude, I fucking hate them. Like, fucking hate Disturbed.
That's okay. There's enough people that love them for you to hate them.
There he is.
Usually the people that are Disturbed fans are pretty...
The best way I've ever described it is Bowflex metal. That's what I tell you. It's like finding another gym bro that you really, really click with and talk to them. And then when you ask them where they work out, they say at home. And then they proceed to tell you that they have a Bowflex. Yeah. It's like, as a metalhead, like, you know, I'm expecting them to say like Cannibal Corpse or something like that. And they're like, oh, I'm a huge fan of Disturbed. I'm like, don't talk to me anymore. Go away.
Oh, man.
I thought you were serious about this.
I I used to when I was younger, I used to think Disturbed was metal.
It's hard.
It's definitely more like hard rock leaning.
It's hard music for
soft people.
For soft people. It's what I'd imagine like a country music fan if they told you they also like metal, that's what they would describe to you.
100%.
Yep.
It'd be that and Five Fingers Headphones.
Yeah, absolutely.
They'd be like, man, they're so heavy. Like,
Thin Blue Line Core is what it is. That's what it is. We drink one brand of beer around here, and we support the police. That's Disturbed.
You're probably not wrong.
I know I'm not. 100%. That's MAGA core.
I've never heard that term before, but it's too fucking accurate. I would wholeheartedly, like, I would not be surprised if they played like the inauguration or something in January. Are they going to play? It's just going to be David Draymond.
The really hard thing about the national anthem for Disturbed is the national anthem's more than 2 notes, so I don't know what the fuck they're going to
do. And David Draymond's just going to be doing the
awful fucking wail that he does. Like,
what is it called? It's the same thing that Jonathan Davis does in Korn. It's like,
I mean,
I forget. There's a word for it.
I mean, in jazz it would be called scat, but
yeah,
it's
not jazz, so it's not scat. But it's
yeah.
In that same vein, where it's just nonsense. No. So you want to talk about the Kabuki Bar a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the main topic of the day. It's probably going to be a little bit tangential as usual, but
yeah.
The Kabuki Bar ban, and they didn't necessarily say we're banning Kabuki bars.
They changed the specifications of what a deadlift bar consists of, and they did it to make it consistent with all the other federations. Also to make it consistent within their own meets, because there had been that you might have a Kabuki bar, you might have a Texas bar.
In WRPF, it could be an all stiff bar meet.
Yeah. Well, in PLU, it could be too. Like they had that sort of, we will do whatever the lifters want. I think they're trying to get more to, especially within their own, meets, just be like, we want everything to be linear, specific. Like we don't want any deviation.
It is more fair to the records.
Not only is it more fair to the records, it's more fair to everybody lifting. It's more fair to people who travel.
Yeah, the problem with these boutique bars is that not every gym you're going to go to is going to have them.
I mean, some gyms don't even have a Texas deadlift bar.
But a Texas deadlift bar is forgiving enough that if you've trained your whole block on a stiff bar,
yeah, you can.
You're gonna by the time your warm ups are over, you're going to be fine on a Texas bar. That is not true of the Kabuki bar. I mean, I bought one specifically to be practiced on because I was so worried about nationals, and I think that was something that was valid. Mm-hmm. Would you say that me buying one just to practice on was?
So I think it definitely directly benefited me because going in, I had a better understanding. Like the first few times I pulled on it, I had a better understanding going into nationals of the speed in which I needed to shift.
Yeah.
That being said, I don't know factually because Nick crushed his deadlifts.
Yeah.
Like he pulled a PR of 30 pounds or something.
Yeah, absolutely, just smoked us.
And moved well too. So maybe it would have been fine to just go out there because Nick had never touched a Kabuki bar before.
It was one of those things that if you prefer a really whippy bar, it probably wasn't as bad. Mm-hmm. But we've only ever trained on power bars or Texas deadlift bars. And the Texas bar is whippy enough to have benefit. Mm-hmm. But not so much that the reverb of it's going to
throw you out of alignment.
I had a lifter lift on it this week for the first time, and probably his last time now that the bans happened. Mm-hmm. And he said he would just blatantly said he would never voluntarily lift on one again.
Right.
Pulled him up on his toes, stuff like that. Austin, I think about us training at Maverick. He had 655 program for a triple. The first 2 moved fine. The third one basically shook out of his hands.
Yeah.
And some of that, like you said, was speed of the pull, right? Like Austin's a very dynamic lifter to the point that you almost think he's going to power clean what he's about to deadlift, like very, very fast deadlifter. And that's something that, at least in a conventional pull, conventional deadlifts tend to be less patient anyway than a sumo pull. Because sumo breaks slower.
Yeah.
So it requires patience that conventional deadlift doesn't. Yeah. And we'll get to that in a second. But he pulls so violently that when he got a lot of reverb and shake on the bar, it basically shook it out of his hands at the top of his third rep.
Yeah.
So it was a big learning curve. You had to be much more intentional about sitting down your slack pull and that first like 6 inches of travel than we would have been on a Texas deadlift bar.
It was, and I've said this before a million times, I think at this point, it was really about finding the breaking point where the weights actually start coming off the ground.
Yeah.
And that's when you needed to make your violent push up.
Yeah.
If you try to just grip it and rip it style, you're just gonna be slung all over the place.
Yeah. There's
I can't say that from experience.
You basically had to on that bar, you had to demonstrate a pretty large amount of control compared to a Texas bar.
Yeah.
I mean, so much. I mean, I remember when they first came out, I remember Derek Thistlewaite complaining about it, that it wasn't as good as a Texas bar and stuff like that. And at that point, that's somebody that's kind of big-mouthed about everything.
Right.
Still one of the greatest lifters on the planet. But he has an opinion about everything. A strong one most of the time. Whether you like him or love him doesn't really matter. But he said, hey, this bar fucking sucks.
Yeah.
And he's a sumo puller, and he didn't like it. But I do think, to that point, I do think it favors sumo pullers more than conventional pullers mostly. Nick maybe being the exception. I think Nick's probably just a badass.
Yeah.
I think that's probably.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I don't think much to slowing Nick Oliver down, to be honest with you.
But I think what you were going to say, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but really, like, your range of motion is already limited by a sumo pull. When you have more slack to pull, it limits the range even more. So you just get more out of your sumo pull because you just don't have to move it as
That's
far.
shorter distance too. There's less reverb in the bar. Yeah. There's less dynamic movement in the bar. And
it benefits you more the heavier the weight is.
There's less distance for it to build speed. And that's the point where Austin was missing deadlifts on the Kabuki bar. Austin, if he gets it to his knee, it is going. It's done. Deadlift's over. Like on the Kabuki bar, it was right the opposite.
Yeah.
Like broke fast as fuck. Get it to his knees, shake out of his hands. Like it was really, really odd in that sense. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I mean, my point of view on it, whether it was built this way intentionally or not, is it's a Chris Duffin bar. It's a Kabuki bar. Chris Duffin is notoriously an awesome sumo puller. I mean, it was strapped, but I mean, there's a video of him, and it was touch and go, but there's a video of him pulling 1,000 for a set of 3. I mean, like, undisputable, like, super fucking talented powerlifter. So I'm not shitting on Chris Duffin, but it was designed by him, a sumo puller, to benefit sumo pulls, whether that was intentional or not. I mean, it was.
Well,
and they called it the PR bar for a reason.
Right? He personally called it the PR bar. So I mean, it was made with the intention of breaking records. Like that's what it was built for. It wasn't built for any other reason.
Yeah.
Now, sumo pullers, I think I'd agree, do get more out of it, but I have seen guys like our friend Zach Dion. He said he missed the Texas bar. He got back on the Texas bar and said, man, I wish I was pulling on this more often, because he just enjoyed pulling on it more. He said he felt it more of a hip hinge, which it probably has to do with the range of motion being longer, because he actually had to get into position and then get into a hinge, as opposed to already being at essentially, depending on how heavy it is, that you're already at the top. You just have to push forward.
Depending on the sumo puller, I mean, it's very much like
a leg press.
If you break it, it's gone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going. I mean, just from training on a stiff bar this block, I feel like up until maximal-ish weight, I would say like 85 plus, there was like benefit to the stiff bar, because like even though you get less slack pull, it's more responsive to the pull, the slack that you pull from it. Does that make sense? Like it breaks sooner because there's less slack. There's less slack in it. And there was a point, even though top end weights were much, much less, there was a point like submaximal weight, almost like the response of the stiff bar better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's probably the reason why I prefer a Texas bar is because there's like a marriage between, okay, it's super responsive to even though it pulls less slack than Kabuki Bar, it's super responsive to the slack that you do get in it.
Mm-hmm.
So that breaks a little bit, to me, it breaks a little bit faster than the Kabuki.
Right.
And I don't know, it just, you still get the thinness of a deadlift bar without all the bounce and shake and stuff like that. So like, I don't know. I still think the Texas I think it's a superior bar. I think, and I don't know what record's been pulled on what. Mm-hmm. I'd imagine there's probably been heavier weight lifted on the Kabuki Bar and probably by a sumo puller.
Well, I know Dan Grigsby pulled the 1174 or 1074, excuse me, on a Kabuki bar. Most of his PRs have been pulled on Kabuki. Now, I don't know what he has pulled on a Texas. Is
he training on Texas?
I don't know. I imagine he has to now because everybody is moving to Texas. And he's doing, he's doing ABS, so he's going to be on a stiff bar.
Is the strong Florida, is that ABS technically?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. He's not doing ABS. He's doing that one. Yeah. I was thinking ABS.
365 strong or whatever it is.
That would probably be a Texas bar, so he'll be pulling on that. Funny enough, I think that there's like 250 on the line for a world record being pulled or being broken, and I'm like, that's literally just for Dan Grigsby. Like, I don't think anybody else is going there to pull a world record. I could be wrong.
Yeah, there's going, but other weight classes, right?
Right, but I don't know who else going that's like big named other than Dan Grigsby.
Well, it's pretty bold to pretty much advertise, I'm pulling 1,100 on this bar.
Potentially.
Come watch me in Florida. Come watch me in Mobile, Alabama. I mean,
it's pretty dope, though.
I mean, it is for sure.
Zach Rodriguez asked me, "Are you going to go down and watch?" And I was like, "Fuck no!" Like, I love Dan Grigsby. I'll watch him on the internet.
We could nearly be to Zach in Kansas as fast as we could.
Yeah, that drive is just.
It's really only. We're closer than we are to Zach, to be honest.
Yeah,
but it's a miserable 6 hours. Yeah. It is not a fun 6 hour drive.
Yeah, not really. That's right. Not how I want to spend my. I'd have to take off work Friday just to get there on time. Yeah, like it's no. But I do think it's cool that he's going to be there. And I hope the meet goes really well. I know
a lot of Alabama lifters in it, right?
Yeah, there's several that are going. I think a lot of them thought they were going to do really good, and I think Dan showing up is going to kind of
taking some wind out of their sails.
Yeah, I think they're getting a little bit of a gut punch. But
the crazy thing about Dan isn't his deadlift anymore. It's obviously his deadlift because it makes up nearly half of his total, but is the fact that he wasn't a very good bencher or squatter.
But he's
in the national perspective. Right. The first time I watched him, he had like a 600-pound squat.
Yeah.
He's going to squat 800
yeah.
soon, like if he hasn't already in comp.
I think he's squatted 800 in practice, hasn't he?
I know he has in the gym, yeah. I don't remember if he has on the platform yet or not.
I don't think so.
But like he's like and I think it has something to do with being out of the military now.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a run standard to keep up with the Marine Corps, but his squat has just like
shot through the roof.
Yeah.
His bench hasn't come up quite as fast.
Well, you know how upper body movements are too. Yeah. They're a lot longer to develop. Yeah. I mean, lose fitness faster in your upper body, stuff like that. I mean, it's harder to maintain. It's harder to build long-term strength.
Not to say he's not a good bencher.
No, he is. But,
I think he's close to 500 pounds.
Yeah, which is, I'm not taking anything away from him, but I'm just saying in a international perspective, he's probably not winning a meet based off of his bench.
No.
Like,
not as a 275. His bench is.
I mean, there's 275s that bench press 600 on the platform. So, what are you going to do about a 1,000-pound deadlift?
Nothing.
And also, what are you going to do about, if he does squat 800 on the platform, what are you going to do about 800? 1,800-pound sub is pretty fucking nasty.
That's tough to keep up with.
That's very, he's probably going closer to 11. So you're basically talking about, he's chances of him totaling 2,300 plus are
pretty high.
Pretty high, yeah. So
anyway, if he's having an off day, maybe 22, 21, but like
21 would be a big swing in my opinion.
That's a pretty bad day. Yeah, but he has done that before. When he cut to 242 to get that world record deadlift. I think he got the world record deadlift. Yeah. It did not go well for him. Yeah, his total for the whole day tanked.
That's powerlifting, baby. That's part of it. But I mean, it's cool that that's happening in Alabama.
Yeah.
I mean, For sure.
We're getting a lot more traffic when it comes to powerlifting in Alabama, which is really, really cool.
I think standardizing the bars is important for the records because, like, pulling on a stiff bar is harder than pulling on a deadlift bar. Like, you should, I'm not so sure on open powerlifting we should have an asterisk category that says he pulled this on a stiff bar versus he pulled this on a deadlift bar. But, like, in strongman they do. Like, they have a different record for every fucking deadlift they do. Like,
but also, strongman probably has more support because, I mean, there's more money in strongman than there is in powerlifting.
On the top end, yeah.
So, it's really hard to say whether they have, like, open powerlifting is run on a volunteer basis. Yeah. Like, they're not, unless I think they started running ads so that they could actually pay people to start working on it. But for the longest time, it was volunteer based. So I don't know if they even had the capacity for it, right, to add in these little asterisks and like separate it.
But I mean, it should be. I mean,
and then you have to get that confirmation from the meet directors who are submitting their numbers and stuff. So
if a USAPL lifter goes in, and it is possible, maybe less so with Jawan's band, but I mean, it's possible that a USAPL lifter go set an all-time world record across every federation on a stiff bar, and it should be noted that was on a stiff bar. I mean, the likelihood of that happening is probably pretty slim in most weight classes, but still, I mean, it is harder. I probably have coached hundreds of people at this point, and the only person I've actively had say that they preferred a stiff bar over a deadlift bar is my wife. And it was just because the way a deadlift bar behaves for her happens to be like at the weakest point of her lift. So she felt like a stiff bar just behaved better for where she was weakest, if that makes sense. And I don't remember what point that was. So she's been out of powerlifting for a little while, but she was talking about that. She could articulate that better than I could, but just based on where she was weakest at the lift, a deadlift bar really put her at a disadvantage, she felt like. It was uncomfortable.
Right.
Not to say with practice she probably couldn't have been better on it. Yeah. Because at the time Sandy got out, Sandy was still largely lifting in stiff bar only meets too. So she wasn't well practiced on a deadlift bar. Right. You know what I mean? So her opinion could change. But like out of hundreds of lifters, that's the only person I've ever had that said, yeah, I like a stiff bar. And then the only professional lifter I've ever said, the big British lifter, long-haired guy, I think he owns or is part of Strength Shop somehow. Long-haired dude. He's probably a 275 or 308. Somebody else could help me with that. He's the only professional I've ever heard say, I like a stiff bar better than a deadlift. So like I have two examples.
Right.
And a pretty good coaching career of people that have actively said, I like a stiff bar better than.
I mean, even just talking to Joe briefly, take a shot, Richard.
It is what it is. Go ahead and take another shot.
That's two shots right there. But he was talking about Brianni's meet at the ABS, and he was talking about how he wanted to do a stiff bar only meet. And I was like, yeah, it's going to suck going to stiff bar everything. And he seemed to be more concerned about the whippiness in the bar from a squat than he did on the deadlift.
So that's the crazy thing about a stiff bar meet is you're actually going to a less stiff bar in the context of the squat. Like, that's a little,
that's intimidating.
Coming from somebody that went from CrossFit bars that were incredibly, not deadlift whippy, but because of Olympic lifts, quite a bit whippier than a power bar is, to somebody exclusively squatting on a Texas squat bar, it is worlds apart to me. Like, that's enough reverb that I almost feel like it carries you up out of the squat a little bit. It could be an advantage, I guess, to some people, but for me personally, it gets me like out of position.
And then when you stand up and then the bar comes up and back down on you.
That settling of the bar is so much worse on a power bar or on a CrossFit bar than it is on a
because you really have to control that weight.
I remember. I don't know if you remember this, but when I bought us our first squat bar, I think I likened it to. I think I may have told you. It may have been you. I told that it was almost like I felt like I was almost squatting in a Smith machine because it felt so guided and stiff.
Yep.
Like versus like the gym bars, the CrossFit bars I'd squatted on prior were a little bit more erratic because of the reverb in the bar. Like So like I think that Joe's right. I think the biggest difference going to a power bar only meet would be, and hats off to guys like Ron that like to do this. Mm-hmm. I would imagine though that Ron is probably capable enough and in tune enough that he probably can take advantage of that reverb in a power bar. But it's wildly different. I feel like that's the most uncomfortable difference in bars that I've ever experienced. Yeah. Is squat to squat. Mm-hmm. Maybe with the only exception of being, and you would never see this in competition, so it doesn't matter. But the difference between a commercial bench bar and a power bar is egregious. Yeah. like I hate getting like a 30 mil like commercial gym bar and having a bench on it because it's like oppressive on your forearms and stuff like that. Really don't press much less on it, but it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's more uncomfortable. Going back to like the standards of the deadlift bars and stuff like that. I know there's been some people, and I think I may have sent you this story. Brianni shared it. Someone commented on it, talking shit about how she's never going to break a world record again or something. And then she reminded them that she has a world record on the power bar in the deadlift. So for anybody who's like super concerned, oh man, losing the Kabuki bar, I'm going to lose. You're probably not going to lose as much as you think. You might need a little more practice. You might lose a percentage of how much you can pull. But you also have to remember that if you are good at deadlifting, you don't need the Kabuki bar to be good at deadlifting.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's the biggest takeaway for me from all this is like, yeah, I had my first 700-pound pull on a Kabuki bar, and I'm probably going to have my first 730-pound pull on a Texas bar. Yeah. Like, I don't think I need the Kabuki bar, even if I was a sumo puller. I don't think I need the Kabuki bar to be better or to, pull a lot of weight. I think I just need to be good at deadlifting.
I'm not so sure that the solution to, well, maybe not for the Kabuki bar, but I mean, I think a good solution to this, and I did this for a long time, and Ron making me pull on a power bar made me realize the actual benefit of this, but I'm not so sure that most of us shouldn't be training on a stiff bar the majority of the year, to be completely honest with you. The Kabuki bar is the right opposite, though. Like, if I would have known then what I know now, I would have bought a Kabuki bar weeks before I did this last time. Like, even I think the 6 weeks y'all had on it or whatever wasn't enough to prepare you completely for the change, to be honest with you. Yeah. We really should have ran a whole, we basically got it for the peak.
Should have had it for a meso
We should have had it, we should have had it for a whole like strength block before the peak. And I think that's the only bar I would, like, you could train exclusively on a stiff bar and do great on a Texas bar. You cannot do that on the Kabuki bar.
No, if you were to go from a straight bar and do a Kabuki bar, I don't know what you would be capable of doing, but it would not be maximal. You would get thrown all over the place, almost instantly, unless you were pulling like 200 pounds or something.
I wish that we could say we were being dramatic about this, but I don't really think we are. I mean,
and at the end of the day, like, I think this is a net positive for Powerlifting United specifically, because we are getting a standard. Yeah. We are not going to have all these various different deadlift bars. We don't know what we're going to go into until they post it. Like, we're going to know specifically we are squatting on a Texas bar, benching on a Texas bar, deadlifting on a Texas bar. It's not going to be any mixture of things. Yeah. It's, I think that's going to be beneficial to everybody across the board from a fairness aspect. If people lose a little bit of strength from not having that extra whip from the Kabuki bar, you'll just have to kind of get over it. Like, just like the conventional pullers, not exclusively, but the majority of conventional pullers just kind of had to get over using a Kabuki bar instead of a Texas bar. Yeah. And then
there was a handful of pro meets that were Kabuki everything.
Yeah. I mean, that was the Nationals. Nationals was Kabuki everything.
But I mean, we kind of knew that the squat bar and the
power bar
wasn't going to be much different.
The difference in the squat bar was that it was just a little bit thinner, and I actually enjoyed it more. And that may have just been because
That
with the way it sits on your back is just less uncomfortable.
Do you think that maybe that was also partially the transition from low bar to high bar?
It could have been.
I do find that the squat bar is a little oppressive on high bar squats.
Because it's so thick, the way it sits is a little more uncomfortable. And that could be entirely it. But I definitely felt a little better on the Kabuki bar, on the Kabuki squat bar.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely prefer. First of all, if you're front squatting on a Texas squat bar, you're a fucking sadist. I don't know why you would do that. I really don't. But I definitely feel like it was made for the Texas bar was made for low bar squats. Yeah, for sure. I'm squatting fine high bar on it. I'm squatting PRs on the Texas bar, but like I think if I was just a regular. But also, I'm a creature of habit, and I want to be on the bar I compete on like all the time if I can be. If I was just like regular gym goer, I would probably much rather be on a power bar or even a commercial gym bar for high bar than I would be. And part of that, I think, could be the thickness because it's a 30 mil bar.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a fat fucking bar. I mean, there's no doubt about it whatsoever. I mean. I'm kind of curious as maybe Zach could speak more on this because he trains more conjugate style. I'm kind of curious if these guys that use more specialty bars more often feel the same disadvantage about the Kabuki bar as
like
we
going
do.
Into it,
yeah, going into it, and also specifically about like squat bars. Like, if you train West Side and you're doing a lot of variation all the time, do you care as much about? I mean, I imagine your squats are still primarily on a squat bar, right? But like, they're more likely to front squat, Zercher squat, do partial range of motion stuff. Like, they're already like mostly training different.
Yeah.
Do you care as much? Like, I mean, I don't know.
I don't think he said he cared too much going from a Texas to a Kabuki bar on as far as deadlifts go. I think he said he just kind of was like whatever and just rolled with it. He said he didn't feel too different. He also pulls. I guess he's a switch hitter.
Yeah.
He can pull either way and relatively well either way. But I think he was pulling sumo when he pulled on the Kabuki bar, so
that may have been a little bit more advantageous for him, or less of a
at the very minimum a little less, especially because sumo pullers always pull a little bit slower at the bottom.
It makes me kind of. I don't know that it necessarily levels the playing field because sumo pullers are definitely. Seem to be light years ahead of conventional pullers in terms of weight loaded right now.
Right.
At least in most weight classes. I mean, you still see super heavyweights, 308 and 308 plus, squat more than they deadlift a lot of the time. Part of that's a positional thing. It's harder for them to get in position and stuff like that. You're not going to see near as many 308s and 308 pluses pulling sumo.
Yeah.
And a lot of that, like I said, is position based. But I mean, trying to figure out where I was going with this. I kind of wonder if it. I don't know if it's going to close the gap, to be honest with you, and it kind of makes me wonder.
I don't think it's going to close the gap.
Is conventional going to die?
I don't think conventional is going to die either.
Like, there's some people that just can't pull sumo.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, are we going to get to the point that conventional pullers just don't win anymore?
I don't think that's going to be the case either.
I mean, you still have huge squats and bench presses from conventional.
John
pullers.
Hack. I mean, he pulls 900 pounds. Conventional.
Yeah,
now,
that's true.
That being said, he is a 198, and we're
likely probably long term going to end up at 220, right? I mean, we could probably
depends on how much longer he's in the sport. I don't know if he's planning on quitting or anything, but he's been in the sport for 10 plus years. Yep. So, and I don't think he's going to quit soon.
Yeah.
But I mean, powerlifting has a shelf life, at least at the top level.
Yeah, I mean, I still don't see. I guess the equalizer is this. I still don't see sumo pullers squatting what
conventional pullers squat.
There's a pretty big, there's almost, not quite, but there's almost as big of a gap between a conventional puller's squat and a sumo puller's deadlift, if that makes sense. Like, it's almost as much of an advantage.
I'd be curious to look at the data, and I don't know how I would go about doing it from, like, if I could get an Excel file from Open Powerlifting or something. But really look at that and see like how many more sumo pullers, and you'd have to find if they're a sumo puller or not. So that's even more. But how like what does the data actually show as far as percentages? How many sumo pullers pull more than they squat, and how many more conventional pullers squat more than they deadlift?
You have the kid that's he's a big social media star that has like 1,000-pound deadlift, right? Sumo puller,
and he squats like 550.
Yeah, like
that's egregious.
You don't see a whole lot of squat, big time squatters that squat 900 plus pulling 550.
Right.
Like most of the time, like they're probably going to come within 100 pounds of their squat most of the time.
Unless they're like, well, I think
the only glaring example I see is like maybe Ray Williams, who squatted, close to, he's 1086. It's the heaviest sleeve squat of all time, I think still.
He
deadlifted like mid sevens.
Right.
Like he also had a monster bench press, really. I mean, probably not so much for a super heavyweight, but enough. You know what I mean? Like, but like that's probably the biggest difference I've probably ever seen. I remember like when I think he ended up missing. He missed 881 or 903, but I remember when Brandon squatted his 1015 or 1018 or whatever it was, missed like a 900-pound deadlift. You're still talking about something that's like within 100 pounds of, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
100, 150 pounds of what you squat. I mean,
trying to find this guy's name, and I can't seem to see it, but he was at an SPF meet. And forgive me if I'm using this term incorrectly or offensively. He was a midget, and he squatted like 600 pounds, and he deadlifted 300.
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously a leverage-based thing.
Right.
I mean,
there's an example of it. Like they do exist. And Ray Williams is kind of like a more like realistic, like from a
Ray's also a very wide man, so deadlift very well could have been a positional thing for Ray too. I mean,
just uncomfortable. One
of my favorite powerlifters all time. Not taking anything away from Ray. I mean, super cool dude too. I mean, super capable. I will always root for Ray Williams, but that's probably the only example of a top level lifter that was like there was a wide gap between squat and his conventional pull. But you see it all the time in sumo pullers versus their squat. Yeah. We mentioned Dan Grigsby, who's obviously we're a fan of his, and he's came on squat quite a bit. But I mentioned when he pulled over 1,000 pounds the first time, he had a 600-pound squat. Like,
and in his defense, he did say like he was also preserving a lot of his strength for that deadlift. He didn't want to go out there and squat so much that he lost a ton of energy. So that's more of playing the game of trying to get a world record.
Sure.
That
military standard too. To be fair, I mean he had worn out legs from trying to maintain some type of run standard. So,
but since you said that, I started thinking about Joe, who is pretty similar in his deadlift and squat.
Yeah, but he's admitted even still he swapped to sumo because of a hip injury.
Right?
Yeah. He still hasn't out sumoed his conventional.
Yeah.
He said that before, but it's a need based thing now. Like to stay in a sport, he had to he had to move.
Quote unquote.
That's probably the closest. The only example I could think of is probably Joe. I mean, he is an elite squatter. I mean,
he is.
Especially as lightweight as he is, he's one of the best squatters in the world. So that's probably the closest. I mean,
oh yeah, take another shot, I guess.
Yeah, take another shot. And
forgot I mentioned him again.
It is what it is.
We're just going to get some people drunk tonight, I think, if they want to play that game.
Don't become alcoholics.
This will technically air either on or the day before New Year's, depending on when I get it done.
You could save it for New Year's Eve and turn it into a party.
Yeah. Yeah, the sip it and rip it listening party.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know how many more times we're going to say Joe, or it is what it is. But you can take 2 more shots.
I don't know if it's specifically I have to say Joe or reference him. I don't know. I don't know the parameters. I
don't know either.
I forget. I know it was something about me saying either saying or referencing Joe, and you saying it is what it is. So I don't know if it goes both ways, if we both say either one of those things.
We should definitely do this, but you should just cut like an hour of me and you alternately saying Joe and it is what it is, and just air it like an episode and don't tell anybody.
This episode
is called the stomach pump episode.
Just call it the drinking game. Just call it the drinking game. People won't be able to take shots fast enough.
It inspires me to do this. Maybe me and you should establish a word of the day and not tell them, but like hide it in a caption or somewhere and see if they can guess it, and turn that into a drinking game.
Yeah.
Every time we say work in the word of the day, you know, like.
That'd be interesting.
It would be. I guess we would have to outright tell them, but
we'd have to tell them for them to be able to play the game. So it either have to go one of two ways. Either we'd have to tell them at the front of it and be like, "Hey, this is," or like at the end of it, we reveal what it is, and then say you have to take a shot for however many times we say.
I'm in a bad habit of using words that are too big that I don't really know the meanings of. Maybe it could be one of those.
Oh man, that would not be super fun. It would expand our vocabulary. We would be learning a lot of new words all the time.
Well, I tell you how you get real drunk real fast. Take a shot every time we cuss.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, that would get you obliterated.
There's a reason why there's a little tab, a little box that you have to check when I put these episodes.
If you want to get jacked, just eat a Diana ball every time we say it is what it is.
I think that would kill you.
It would kill you. Don't do that.
It actually would you will not get jacked.
Do not do that. Nathan's mad because now he has to put a disclaimer at the front of this episode.
No, I'm not. Listen, maybe if we had a lot more viewers, I would be a little more concerned. But I think most people who listen have a pretty good understanding that you should not do that.
You should not do that.
You should probably not take more than. Well, I mean, I don't know. I really don't know what the protocol is for bodybuilders.
We're not even really big oral guys over here, so probably don't do that.
At most 6 weeks out, and I'm taking like 50 milligrams at most of whatever oral I'm taking. Because I don't. The big thing about it is, I was actually having a conversation with somebody recently, and I won't say any names because I don't know if they want to be tied into that or not. Probably fine, but just in case. But we were talking about oral. We were talking about steroids in general and how it's different. Really, what we boiled down to was how different drugs affect different people differently.
Yeah.
But where was I going with that? Oh, you really just have, like, when it comes to orals, you really have to find something that works for you and doesn't disadvantage you, because
your blood pressure is only going to get so high before it's a major disadvantage. Yeah. Like, you shouldn't be blacking out during a squat attempt or anything like that.
Also the hormonal side effects and, like, the mental side effects you can get.
Yeah, because they have a shorter half-life. They're going to affect you much quicker.
Typically, I think it's like 6 to 8 hours or something like that. That's why you take them daily. And typically, you want to take them close to the time you're going to work out. I don't know what exactly the activation time is on them, but typically, if you take it between that 6 and 8 hour window of working out, probably not right as you get to the gym. You probably also shouldn't be taking drugs to the gym with you, but I know some people have done that in the past and injected in the bathroom. And, I don't know these people personally, but I did go to Health Fit, so that did happen a lot. I'm sure I've told the story about going into a stall and there just being blood on the toilet seat, and I'm just being like, fuck. And I was a little naive at the time and didn't realize what it was. But
thinking back, like somebody pinned a quad and, and hit a vein or an artery, and
they did something, man. But it was all over this. I was just like, fuck.
I gotta quit pinning my quad, to be honest with you. I gotta start going my shoulder and my butt cheek.
I have found here lately that alternating between quads and butt cheek is the way to go. I pin a lot more frequently, not tons at a time, but I was always afraid of pinning in self-pinning in my butt because I was always like, when I would turn, I would get cramps. So I really don't want to get a cramp when I'm trying to inject, but it's really not that bad as long as and it doesn't hurt. Like I don't even I used to get some soreness in general, but now I don't even.
Dude, there is not a PED or an anabolic on the planet that makes me feel the way iridescence makes me feel.
It's so funny.
It was like an instant cramp, like true cramp for like the first 5 minutes after I took it.
It's really, how much did you take? A mil?
A mil, yeah.
Because I've never.
I will say that it is the most euphoric pre-workout I have ever. Yeah. That first 10, 15 minutes after taking it is borderline nervous wreck, but after you get through that, it is the chillest, just most even up you've ever felt.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, if you take an extreme workout, you get that anxious feeling and it stays with you your entire workout.
And you probably shit.
Yeah, and it's not it's not fun.
Stomach hurts.
But the iridescence is so fucking even compared to.
I think you would really like Nectar.
Probably.
I think Nectar would be just perfect for you because it doesn't give you. And I've never had, other than, funny enough, before the bench press competition, the same time you took it, and I took a little more than normal, not on purpose, but just because it pulled that much, and I was like, fuck it. Yeah. I think it was a 1.25 instead of 1. But that was the first time where my heart started racing, and I was like, what the fuck? This is weird. And when I was on the way there, and then when I got there, I was like, oh, I'm good now.
Yeah.
I felt like I normally do. So
it definitely made, I'll tell you this, until I got to a maximal effort, all the way through the 410,
mm-hmm.
I shit you not. I told my wife this. I told a couple other guys that asked me about this. And I think the weight moved like this through 410. I could not physically tell a discernible difference from the empty bar to 410 pounds mm-hmm. on iridescence.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
I didn't feel a difference in the weight until I got under weight that I'd never got under before. Mm-hmm. I'm not so sure I felt that much different either until I just couldn't couldn't lock it out. But it felt fucking great mm-hmm. until I just hit a wall.
Yeah.
But
did you get the crash after?
I did feel like I was hit by a semi truck the next day.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was just curious if that was.
It wasn't worse than a normal max effort day, I wouldn't think.
Yeah.
But normally in a gym I don't normally do a true max effort bench mm-hmm. press. Even if it's a PR, it's planned for, and we know we probably have more than what I'm hitting. Tank, you know what I mean? But that was the first time I made making a 20-pound jump on bench press when you're already in a maximal range was probably stupid. But if I was doing that in the gym, I wouldn't have made the jump before 430. Right. You know what I mean? And I think it probably would have gone if I'd have called 420 or 425.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But yeah, when I tell you that it was a very euphoric and very, very focused feeling,
mm-hmm.
and I call it a pre-workout, even though it's really not, but that's what it felt like to me.
That's what they've prescribed it as. On Joe, take a shot. Joe, when I first started taking it, because of his recommendation, he was like, it basically replaced my need for a pre-workout. I just don't take one, and I've adopted that too. I will either take Nectar or iridescence or nothing.
It is so much more mild, still effective, so much more mild and less extreme than a bunch of caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
But so much better
for performance
and for the sake of performance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I happen to, the only time I ever take pre-workout, and I'm talking about a couple of times a year, it will be before a really heavy press day.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say I don't take pre-workout, I never take pre-workout for real. But it was so much more together feeling than the only thing I probably would say I miss is the beta burn.
Yeah.
But outside of that, so much cleaner, so much more focused than a caffeine buzz.
And that really comes from the choline. That just helps your brain. So
yeah, I could have solved
function.
Rubik's cubes in between punch attempts.
I don't think I could have done that, but I'm not good at
that. I probably couldn't have either, but that's how
But you felt very present in your own body.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing that I think a lot of people miss on. And I've tried to convince people on Nectar and iridescence, and I'm like, man, there's nothing out there like it. There really isn't.
There's not. I mean, it's
you can go back, and I've said this before on the podcast. I think you can go back and look. I didn't post it on my page, but I posted it on my story. The difference between the 655 pull on my page where I took Nectar and the 675 pull the next week where I took Iridescence was, I don't want to say night and day, but for 20 pounds, they were, I mean, the 675 moved better.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you could just see where it was just like I was very much more in tune and very more focused and very much just more athletic. Like, just the movement was better. Yeah. So, I mean, we need to get a code for better.
Because we fucking
better through biology.
Better through biology.
I need to ask. I know Joe has top connections. I need to ask Joe if I can get a code.
Them often.
Like we mentioned them.
But yeah, I mean, hell, it works. That's the first time I knew it worked based on other people's experience. Yep. That's the first time I've taken it, and I'm a believer. Mm-hmm. Super uncomfortable post injection though.
It just never bothers me that much. But also, I will say this: the first time I took Nectar was before they didn't change the formula, but they changed around. They did something to make it easier to inject. Because the first time
probably the suspension, I imagine.
Probably so. Yeah. But Nectar, the first time I took it, was a fucking burn. Like it sucked. And then when they came out with they re-released it and made it better. Ever since then, I've never felt any. Even with Iridescence, I've never felt any sort of like pain. That being said, Desi said she feels it. Yeah. If she takes Iridescence, she said it hurts. Maybe I'm just used to it.
Don't know that I would have pinned it in my quad before a squat.
That's fair.
Because I mean, it was knotted up. It was gross. Like wanted to puke pain. Yeah. Like for a little while. Worst post injection pain I've ever had. Like, it didn't linger like a bad UGL or something would for like days or something. Mm-hmm. But like the first 5 minutes afterwards was awful.
I remember you saying, "I don't know if I should be recommending this to people." You're like, you were having a little bit of a moment for a little while.
I was.
You were worried.
I was running around the office after that pin. I was like, "Oh my fucking god, what did I do?" Yeah, definitely pin it in your shoulder before you squat, though.
I mean, I'll be honest. I always pin it in my quads. It never bothers me. But what I would suggest to anyone, first and foremost, is take less the first time you take it.
I went full 1 mil first time, baby.
Take a half mil. Always kind of be more mindful of like, you can take a half mil and you might be disappointed. You might be like, it just doesn't work. Then you just take a full mil, and then you'll get more benefit out of it. But just kind of like play with it, see what feels better. For the longest time, I was taking a half mil of Nectar and then a half mil of carnitine, because I was like, I just don't need the extra choline, and I've got this carnitine sitting here, and I want to burn through it basically. And that was my mix for the longest time. And then I just full on milliliter of Nectar and progressing onwards. So that's the majority of things, though. Progressive overload.
Where did we land on, not to get too deep before we end this thing, but where did we land on how we feel about that at a drug tested meat?
So my big thing is it shouldn't be banned.
It is a vitamin. We're not talking about no PEDs present in it.
Better Through and this is kind of like a side tangent. Better Through Biology coming out with a new product called VO2 Max or Vox or something like that. I can't remember exactly the name of it. That is banned. That does have substances that are banned in WADA. So you can't use that. So not all Better Through Biology.
I'm just kind of curious real quick. Just look at, I'm just going to look this up.
The product I'm talking about?
Carnitine banned by WADA.
Shouldn't be, because they've come out.
It says it right. First Google thing. Carnitine is not banned by WADA.
Yeah. The other thing would be choline. And I don't think there's like in Iridescence, ATP is the other thing. There's something in it that creates ATP. I can't remember exactly.
There's no immediate thing on choline.
It's in eggs, so it couldn't be banned.
Couldn't be banned.
There's no way it could be banned. You'd have to tell your lifters not to eat eggs.
Yeah, I mean, the dosage makes the poison, though. We talk about that all the time. Right?
Yeah. But what we were saying, though, I don't think it should be banned. I think it should be legal. In the same vein, I also think that peptides should be legal. Lots of people will disagree with that. But in my opinion, they're not dissimilar enough to say one should be banned and the other should not.
Immediately, we got beta blockers, glucocorticoids, cannabinoids, so THCs, man. Narcotics, stimulants, which going to include amphetamines and probably like DHEA, DHAA, stuff like that. Gene and cell doping, which we talked about last week. I don't know what the protocols are on that. Chemical and physical manipulation, which is unclear. Basically tampering, and it actually does say, I don't know how they would test this, intravenous infusions are banned. So I would imagine that would become IVs that include vitamins and whatnot. Yeah. I don't know how they would go about actually testing for that.
Oh, no. That's actual blood.
Okay.
Like that's actually
intravenous infusions and/or injections of more than 100 milliliters per 12-hour period for those legitimately received in the course of hospital treatments. So 12 hours out, basically from a blood
infusion,
infusion, something like that.
Yeah, I forgot that was
manipulation of blood and blood components is pretty much going to be masking agents, diuretics, and other masking agents, hormone and metabolic modulators, which should be obvious. Beta-2 agonists, peptides, growth factors, related substances, anabolic agents is obvious, and non-approved substances seems to be, is actually nootropics, BPC 157, TB 500.
Now, my biggest thing, the growth hormone stimulating peptides, I can totally understand why they would be banned.
Yeah.
But the BPC and TB, it just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't see that as performance enhancing enough because it is primarily used for recovery of injury, not for recovery of. I mean, don't get me wrong. It does help your recovery along the way, but not to the extent where I believe it's performance enhancing.
Yeah, I mean, it's made to get you back to normal.
Yeah,
right? and maybe to prevent injury.
Yeah.
I guess, the same thought about that is what does anabolics do is they decrease recovery time.
Yeah.
That's why people that say steroid, and obviously some sports it is cheating because it's against the rules. But the fallacy in you're only that big because you're on steroids, like from the outsider's perspective, from people that haven't used them, their idea of it is you didn't have to work as hard because you took this. And the truth of the matter is they only enable you to work harder.
Yeah. Your work capacity
increases. Yeah. So that's what people like laymen don't understand about anabolics is, yeah, they have these, these muscle building effects and stuff on you, but they're really increasing work capacity, allowing you to tolerate more, so that you can recover faster and do more sooner. Which people don't understand, and that is performance enhancing. I'm not arguing that point at all, but
is it performance enhancing enough?
We're talking about BPC and TB. I don't think they are, but I mean, nevertheless, they're banned. The rules are the rules of the rules. Right. We've been over that. I mean, if you knowingly took it and it was knowingly banned, then you broke the rule.
Yeah. We talked about
whether or not they should be. Is another thing. We talked about that before, but
as far as carnitine, choline, these injectable vitamins, if they become banned. Because here's the thing, they are performance enhancing,
they are, yeah, 100%,
now they're not anabolics. They're not in the sense they do make you perform.
You can
better,
also go by GNC right now and buy. We know that they're not as effective orally. You can go buy GNC and buy every one of these things off the counter right now.
Yep. Now you do have to take a certain dosage to be able to use them, and I think the problem with orally taking them is that your liver will filter out a certain amount.
Yeah.
Before it gets to the performance enhancing dosage.
Oral carnitine is horse shit. It doesn't work.
100%. So it's kind of like throwing money away, pissing in the wind if you're taking it orally, because you just can't consume enough to get to a performance enhancing level for it to, because your liver will filter it out. But if I'm not mistaken on that.
I would have to say that the testing protocol I think we're probably in a gray area, but it's probably not good enough to
be able to actually.
But I mean, because I ran a supplement store, there are pre-workouts that are banned. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so.
And that could be one. And, it's funny, and I won't say any names again. I was talking to someone who is connected to a powerlifting federation who runs drug-tested meets, and talking about specifics on, like, drug testing for things like Adderall and stuff like that. I was curious. I was like, so are you allowed to have some sort of waiver or anything? And it's like, most people just choose not to take it 2 weeks prior, which is going to be a disadvantage, or you can just hope you don't get drug tested. And I was like, that's a really sucky option.
Yeah, I think these things that are required for normal function, normal health shouldn't be, including TRT.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's not performance enhancing if it's what it takes for you to be normal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we talked about that already.
Now, my TRT protocol, on just the TRT dosage, my test above 1,500.
Right.
That is performance enhancing.
Yeah.
But if you're in the 300 to 1,000, meh.
Yep.
Don't really care.
Yeah.
Like, you shouldn't.
Technically, you're still in normal range.
Still in normal range.
Depending on your age and stuff like that too, because it does change depending on your age.
Yeah, I mean, if you're 65 and it's $9.99,
or if it's 800, you're probably
you're probably.
if you're not taking anything, people need to study you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's pretty nuts.
That is pretty nuts. But yeah, I'm not so sure that things that require to be normal. That's a little bit.
It kind of just sucks.
Man, the conversation of natty or not is,
what's
increasingly frustrating because, like, man, like I said, I ran a supplement store and sold more SARMs than I can begin to describe to you. There's sometimes I sold 10 bottles to one person at a time, right? And those same people, in the same sentence that they ask for these SARMs, will tell you a million reasons as to why they're never going to do anabolics.
Yeah.
And it would be like, you're doing an anabolic.
Buddy, you don't know what SARMs are.
Yeah, you don't know it. But I just can't see myself not being natty as they're handing several $100s in cash to me.
Yeah.
To purchase their SARMs. I'm like,
like, I will take your money.
Whatever veil you want to hide behind is perfectly okay. I'm not so sure in the general, this is specifically with men, but like, I feel like I know more people on something than not.
Right. Well, that's
especially
also,
if you're including SARMs. You know what I mean?
I would argue that that's because we are surrounded by a lot of people who go to the gym.
Yeah.
Like if you go to day by day, people like average people, Joe Blow walking down the street, probably not taking anything.
No, probably not.
But people who go to the gym more often than not, they're
men specifically.
Yeah. It is significantly less in the women's side of things, even in strength sports. Significantly less women taking.
Part of what led me to using them in the first place, other than my mental health was the biggest contributing factor, not performance to starting.
Same.
Testosterone. But one of the biggest things that led me to it was like the realization that X amount of my male clients were taking it anyway.
Right.
And doing it dangerously. And I wanted to be informed enough to make sure that they were safe.
Yeah.
I mean, I was literally driven toward this route because I had male clients that were just going to do it, my recommendation or not.
Yeah.
So if they're going to, and I am basically their caretaker, that's what you are if you were somebody's trainer. Whether you want to consider yourself one or not is your own ethical dilemma. But you're basically supposed to be taking care of this person's health. Mm-hmm. And if that was going to be the case, then I wanted to be informed about it as possible. And obviously, I'm not an expert. Mm-hmm. But I know enough now to know that less is more.
Yep.
I know enough now that there are certain compounds, if you have certain problems, you just don't need to be messing with. Wouldn't recommend them to, there's certain things I'd never recommend to anybody, like a little bit outside of strictly anabolics, but like clenbuterol, stuff like that. Like I wouldn't recommend to anybody. I mean, stuff that's used in bodybuilding pretty prevalently. I wouldn't suggest anybody to mess around with insulin unless they knew exactly what they were doing. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't suggest anybody mess around with 19 Nors unless they're just a psychopath like I am. You know what I mean? Like, I've had, we've talked about it before. Up until recently, I've had good mental health benefits from 19 Nors. Mm-hmm. Terrible physical health repercussions for that, though. So, I mean, like, some of it's my own experience, but most of it was just born out of, I want to be as informed as I can be so these people don't die of a fucking heart attack before they're 40. Like,
I'm just going to scroll back just a little bit, but in the same vein of what we're talking about here, you know what I find to be the worst aspect of this?
Natty or not?
Not necessarily the natty or not, but like some of these limitations that they put on us for drug-tested events. Like if someone has to be on TRT to be at a normal level and you're telling them, well, you can't compete here as a tested athlete because you're taking testosterone regardless. What is that person going to say, well, fuck, I guess I'm just going to go on TRT and compete untested? Or are they going to say, well, fuck, if I have to compete untested anyway, I'm just going to take a shit ton of gear? Which one do you think they're more going to lean towards? Because and so you're forcing people that may not necessarily want to abuse gear. Well, not necessarily forcing. Forcing is a bad word. But you're guiding them to the path of abusing steroids, especially if they don't know any better. As opposed to someone who would just like compete at a normal level.
Yeah, I'll tell you 100%. The gym bro view on anabolics will kill you.
Oh yeah, 100%
will fucking kill you.
Don't listen to a gym bro about steroids, especially
and you have to remember too when you hear bodybuilders specifically talk about how much they do. The difference between them and us is they are expected to have X amount of conditioning, and the likelihood of their heart at least some point in their training being quite a bit healthier than ours, probably pretty likely. Mm-hmm. They have better body composition in general, and are going to tolerate more gear better. Yep. That's not to say they don't kill themselves. They do all the time with it. I mean, but, you hear Dr. Mike talk about his blood work's perfect and takes an untold amount of gear. He's admitted
several grams.
But that comes, by and large, that comes from the fact that they're having to do X amount of cardio, and we do too, like enough to keep his heart healthy and keep our work capacity high. But they're doing countless hours on the treadmill, Stairmaster, stuff like that to get their conditioning in order.
Their dieting is probably
their dieting is better. Much lower fat diet. They're not eating, probably, especially certain points, they're probably not eating a lot of red meat. Yep. And not to demonize red meat, but it does make your red blood cell count go up, and so does gear. So, that's one in general, a little bit more dialed in diet wise, a little bit more dialed in cardiovascularly, and they're going to tolerate a little bit more because of that. Yeah. The difference between them and the gym bro aspiring to be them is they're not there yet.
They're also maybe going out partying, drinking a bunch of beer, eating pizza on the weekends.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you have that whole demographic of men that are in the gym to look a certain way, and then they want to go show how they look, and they're using this as a means to get laid, for better or worse. It's their own prerogative. But, they're not talking about somebody. I know bodybuilders that have gone years without, personally, know bodybuilders that have gone years without touching alcohol.
Oh, yeah.
Not because they don't want it, but because it just doesn't fit into their lifestyle. Like it doesn't fit their goals, doesn't fit anything like that. Like we have drinks every week on the show, you're talking about somebody that's already probably a little bit more physically tolerant to these things. They're better body composition, so their liver's in better health. You get fatty liver disease from being overweight and from, there's alcohol induced fatty liver disease, but by and large, we get that from being overweight. So if their body composition is better, liver's in a little bit better shape already. Like there's a lot of stuff that goes into that. And the problem with taking like your favorite bodybuilder and saying, oh, he's on this cycle, I have to do it too, is like, you're not them.
Yep.
They probably spent years on 400 milligrams of test a week was their cycle before they ever started taking what they've taken. Their body composition is better. They're better in general than you are. Their diet's better. They take things more seriously. They're going to tolerate things better. And that's so lost. And that's the most dangerous thing about anabolics being illegal, is the fact that people are using them anyway, despite the fact they're illegal. And because we have there is more and more now, thanks to the internet, but because we don't really have a great basis of what's safe and what's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not studied. It's not talked about regularly. People just do whatever Rich Piana told them to do, or whatever it may be. I mean, it's a bad example, but like
he's a bad example.
But like people just do what they're told, and they don't know any better, and that's sad.
That, or they just wing it, and that's probably even worse, to be honest with you.
It's a lot worse. I mean,
having no guidance is probably, well, maybe not, depending on who you are as a person. If you are a more reserved person, you might be safer that way. But if you are like, I don't give, like some of these kids that I've seen at the gym who come in and say, I'm just going to do a gram of tren. And I'm like,
I think I'd been a lot further down the road if I started on a UGL and not going to the doctor. I think I'd be a lot better further down the road in terms of body composition, in terms of strength and everything. If I would have just started at QC with a TRT dose and didn't, move from that.
Yep.
I've seen a lot better games from just not having to come off than I ever did up and down all the time with, a gram of gear in my butt, for 10 weeks at a time.
Now, I will say the first time that I actually took testosterone, I did kind of blow up. Like, we're talking going from, what was I at the first competition? I was like 212, and then I went to like 230.
Yeah.
Not very far in between. Like, there was a significant difference in my body composition and my muscle mass when I went to my first comp to when I started after my first cycle.
So at that point too, though, you're still cycling. Like, what's to say that 200 milligrams a week,
right, wouldn't have
indefinitely wouldn't have been. Maybe you wouldn't have been 230 as quick,
right?
But long term, what's to say it wouldn't have been better? I mean,
and you're probably right.
I'll be honest with you. I just came off a PED dose 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't feel any weaker.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I just told you at the beginning of the show, I've set PRs. Mm-hmm. I don't feel any different. Probably a little less crazy. This is a benefit.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so
that's one of those things I think that a lot of people are missing out on is, I think genuinely, if being on your TRT dose and you took nectar on like your weeks, I don't know how Ron programs, but in my mind, I would say weeks 2 and 3, like your up weeks.
Yeah.
You would see a significant difference.
Yeah, typically between weeks 2 and 4 is obviously heavier, but it does. He will continue to progress me because this is what he's done traditionally. I may be wrong about this. He's going to continue to progress me linearly until
you can,
until the load on deadlift at least is too heavy to sustain week to week. Mm-hmm. But even on deadlift, like on the stiff bar before I pulled my lat, it was 10, 15, 20 pounds every week on top of. But I was recovering from it, and I was feeling good. He will do that with me until I just no longer feel good, and then we'll start to undulate. So, like, that coupled with the fact that I have been on TRT, like, I've been able to continue recovering fine, everything like that on just 200 milligrams a week.
Right.
So, which my test was bad enough that my prescription dose is higher than most people's TRT. But, like, my blood works fine on 200. I feel good on 200. Blood pressure doesn't get out of control on 200. Like, it's sustainable. It's easy. 1 shot a week. Like, and I continue to climb up the ladder. It just goes to show you that your health markers in general, being balanced and in control,
are more important than
how much gear you're taking.
Yeah.
If those things, if you're like Dr. Mike or somebody, one of these guys whose body composition is incredible, and your blood work can continue to be good on more,
why not?
That's fine. But as I've progressed, I've taken less and less and less.
Yep.
I'm not
at least from like a normal day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to like competition prep stuff,
I will probably, and this is probably based on Ron's recommendation too. I will probably mess around with an oral probably 4 weeks out because I don't tolerate them well.
Yeah. You could go as long as 2 to 3 weeks out, but you wouldn't get you would really need
I would like to see them through my last, I would like to start them at a point that my last heavy deadlift was. Yeah.
I was going to say that,
which is probably going to be about 3 weeks out.
Yeah. You know? So that's like that's the furthest away that I would start is like as soon as you start your heaviest lifts.
Yeah.
In the prep cycle.
I'm sure. Well, traditionally, like when I was with him last heavy deadlift about 3 weeks out, last heavy squat, bench press, like we've talked about before, 10 to 14 days out. You know, depending on how well somebody recovers from it. That's what we did last time. I'm a lot stronger now than the first time I was with him, so that might get pushed back a week.
Yep.
We may taper longer, but I would imagine it would still be somewhere.
Yeah.
21 to 28 days on deadlift, 10 to 14 on squat and bench. And that's,
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're talking about 4. And because they have a short half-life, you don't have to have them weeks prior like you would on an oil.
Yeah.
So.
In theory, you could take it day of, and that be the only time you take it.
You don't have the hypertrophic effects of having been taking it.
Yeah.
But
the only thing you would get is the instant availability.
Yeah, that'd be
for that day. So in theory, you could do that. It would not be the most beneficial, but when it comes to like mental health things, like if that's just a decision you have to make as
I would be curious to see. Everybody's got a gym bro that refuses to take a shot, but they'll eat orals like candy. I would be interested to see those people's blood work.
I think that entirely has to do with just being a pussy.
Yeah, I mean, but their blood work has to be jacked because an oral will absolutely fuck you up.
Yeah. There's a reason why we don't take them year round.
Yeah.
100%. There's a reason why we don't take them as long as any other year.
Yeah.
It's because it absolutely destroys your liver.
Yeah.
So,
100%.
I mean, I guess if you're taking like Lady Anavar every day for your whole life and that's it, you might be okay, but that's when I say Lady Anavar, I mean like 10 milligrams. Like that's just, as far as I know, the smallest dosage you can get of it.
The problem with Anavar is it's hard to find prescription Anavar, and it's faked most of the time. Most of the time when you get it, it's Dianabol or Anadrol anyway. So why even? And it's more expensive, so why even fuck with it?
Right.
Me and you've both had it before, I think.
Anavar.
Yeah, and I would.
Maybe,
yeah. But I don't know if it works well enough to be worth the money or the risk.
Yeah.
So,
listen,
A-bombs do.
I've been told A-bombs will fuck someone up mentally, and they literally just hate taking them.
I've taken Anadrol before. Well, I took it when I was with Brandon. The meet that I tore my groin at, I was on Anadrol, and I don't remember. Blood pressure was bad.
Yeah.
But I don't remember
like mentally
being like fucked.
Me either. Like I've never had any. I mean, I've taken Superdrol before, which is just like it's
a blend, right?
Yeah, it's just a blend that's a little more powerful. So,
it's probably our responsible dosing too, to some extent.
Yeah, it could be. Typically,
I've never taken 100 milligrams of an oral.
I have once, and that was like the day of.
That makes sense, but it wasn't prolonged like 4 weeks of 100 milligrams. Yeah.
25 to 50 is all I really want to take. And this time, I don't even know how far out I'm going to take it.
I feel so good on the TRT dose. I don't know. I can honestly sit here and tell you, I don't know that I'm going to do anything extra.
Yeah. You might. I mean, you don't have to. Nobody has to.
Austin year-round TRT.
Yep.
Is the strong right now. You and him are the strongest on the team, and he takes the least.
Yeah.
Of any of us.
Yeah.
Like, there's a difference when he doesn't have his TRT. He definitely.
Oh yeah.
There's a hit.
We've seen it.
But that's insurance based.
Yeah.
Some people's insurance companies suck.
But or if you change insurance, there's
there's a lull in it, and it can cause you to miss a prescription or something like that. But like, I don't know that it's worth it to this point anymore. Like, TRT's been fine. My test stays super high when I'm on a TRT dose. Like, it can't be that much higher.
Right.
It's unmeasurable. At least at my doctor, it's unmeasurable past 1,500. Mm-hmm. They'll just say 1,500 or 1,500 plus.
Yeah.
Like, so if me being on a 19 doors goes from 15 to 2,000, I don't know how much more beneficial that is. So you might just be talking about basically just risk and no reward at that point.
Yeah.
So all things to consider. We've ran a little bit long for a random episode.
Yeah, we ranted a little more than I expected. That's okay.
What do you got in the way of dad jokes?
Dad jokes? Oh,
I don't know if it was really tangential this time.
I think we just had two main topics, and it was really just, it was really primarily focused on just bars.
Yeah.
Not specifically deadlift bars, but just bars in general.
Weigh in, give us your opinion about it. I think I kind of know where
most people are landing on.
Yeah, I know where my drug tested meat homies will probably land because they, USAPL guys are used to stiff bar across the board. I would really be interested in hear Ron's opinion on a squat bar versus a power bar.
Yeah. because he's competing on both.
And Zach's opinion on a squat bar versus a power bar. Ron
Zach?
has Rodriguez.
Okay.
I would like to know those two guys specifically, just because Zach trains differently than us anyway, being a little bit more conjugate based, and Ron competes in stiff bar meets. Yeah. So I would kind of like to, hear them out on that a little bit. So.
It'd be good to hear back from them
for sure
if they decide to listen. I know Zach will.
Yeah, Zach will for sure. Ron probably will too.
Dad jokes. So this one I found today. It's a little risque for a dad joke, but it's pretty good. So bear with me.
Okay.
I bought a box of condoms earlier today, and the cashier asked me if I'd like a bag, and I said, "No, I'll just turn the lights off."
Not to get too deep, but I had my first pregnancy scare of post becoming a dad on Christmas Eve, and I was fucking panicked. But I was like,
"We can't do another one."
I was like, "Yeah, I don't know if we can do another one." It was a false start.
Okay.
It's okay. But you want to talk about your heart dropping to your nutsack and staying there for a solid 36 hours? That happened to me, man.
So this is definitely tangential, but have you thought about getting snipped?
We have discussed it. We're going to probably go another route before that. There's like non-hormonal female contraceptives we're going to try first.
I think it's called NuvaRing or something similar.
I think there's a copper IUD.
Okay.
I think that's maybe what we're going to do first. If not, I'll probably get snipped sometime in 2025.
Yeah, currently she has an IUD, so I'm not super concerned about it. But when it starts to wear off, I'm probably just going to get snipped.
Yeah,
it's very intimidating.
Good thing is it's reversible. So if you change your mind, it's okay.
I am not going to change my
mind. I don't know that I am, but I can tell you it was scarier than the first time. The first time I had changed my mind about having kids, so I was like,
right.
It was kind of welcome news. The second time, I'm thinking I have a 13-month-old, and she's going to be just short of 2 years. Yeah. When I have another one, I was like, this could not happen. I cannot have two babies in the house at the same time.
That's where me and my brother were at age-wise.
I was like, man, we might as well have had twins the first time at this point.
It would have been easier.
It probably would have been. It'd have been over with faster. But I was panicked.
Yeah.
Not to step on your dad jokes.
No, it's fine.
It just hit home.
I definitely would have been panicked too if I had heard about a second one. So
that was my Christmas present. Panic.
Someone. I was having a conversation with someone, they said to me, you're an introvert. What fragrances do you like? And I said, leave me the foo. Leave me the foo cologne.
Damn it. That was a very dad joke.
Yeah, it was pretty daddy. That
one more.
Weird.
You got another one?
Weird. Yeah.
I don't have any queued up this time. I apologize.
That's okay. I'm not going to say that one. That was too dad joke. You know why the letter C is afraid of the rest of the alphabet?
I don't know.
Because all the other letters.
He can't even get this one out. It must be bad.
It's pretty bad.
Why is the letter C afraid of the rest of the alphabet?
Because all the other... It's not that funny. Because all the other letters are not C's. It's not that funny, but it cracks me up. I don't know.
I mean, that's what they're supposed to do. It's so dumb.
That one,
it's funny.
I even told Desi that one because I thought it was like, that's such a dad joke. It's so good. She did not think it was that funny. But
dude, Sadie is so unamused by my dad jokes. And I don't know. I kind of have a talent of coming up with my own. Like, I'll just say them at random. And you can just see the hatred just like pouring off of her. I think that may be the only thing I do that just really chaps Sandy's ass sometimes. And the bad thing is like when I get in that mood, it's like rapid fire. Mm-hmm. It's like one after another, and it just like you can tell how heavy they start to get to get on her and how they just weigh her down. And
I've come up with a few in my time, and the one that I liked the most, and it may already have existed before I came up with it, but I was telling someone at work, I was like, I was up all night trying to come up with a joke about the sun. And then it dawned on me. And I thought, man, that's such a good, good dad joke. And I was so proud of it. I'm sure someone else made it before me, but I can't, in my head, I had never heard it before and came up with it.
I like dad jokes. I like really, really off color, so vulgar they're kind of not funny jokes. Because I like just seeing people's
their butthole clench a little.
They're shocked when I say it.
Their Christianity kind of die a little bit.
Yeah, you see their faith leave their body when I hear. I would tell them, but I would get canceled. We would not be able to air another show for real. If I told some, I was coming of age when the dead baby jokes were incredibly popular, which I think are less funny now.
I've never really found them funny. To be honest with you, it
was just how aggressive and over the top they were. Yeah. The content's really not funny. But it's just the shock of hearing someone say one is
I remember somebody, it's the 5 jokes that'll send you to hell or something like that, and they say them rapid fire. Someone did that to me one time, and I just looked at them and I was like, none of this is funny. I don't understand why you told me this. But okay, I'm going away now.
It's like a rite of, it's something y'all should look up. It's a rite of passage for stand-up comedians. But you've heard the aristocrat joke?
Sounds familiar.
It's largely just improvised by every comedian, but everybody has their own version. You should, if you want to just be offended for no good reason, you should look up Bob Saget or somebody like that tell the aristocrat joke because it's appalling.
What's funny is just whenever I think of Bob Saget, I think of Full House. So
or America's Funniest Home Videos.
Or America's Funniest.
No, his stand-up was incredibly vulgar.
I've always heard that, and it just shocks me.
Shockingly vulgar, yep. So was Robin Williams, but it was it was genius. Robin Williams was smart.
Yeah.
So good.
It's so funny how some of these really, really popular quote unquote family friendly comedians who at least they get really popular and they're doing all these family movies or whatever, and then going back and looking at some of their stand up, and it's just oh,
I definitely have a list of everybody else thinks they're funny and I think that they're really not. Chris Rock is at the top of that list. He is the least funny human being.
I've never just sat there and listened.
I don't like Kevin Hart.
I like some of Kevin Hart's jokes, but I've gotten tired of him lately.
Cat Williams was funny.
I've never listened to a lot of his comedy.
Cat Williams was funny.
I know of him
going way back, and I only because I feel like his stand-up's still relevant somehow. Is Richard Pryor.
I actually don't know that name.
Oh my God! You should watch at least some Richard Pryor movies.
Okay.
He did a bunch of stuff with Gene Wilder. Gene Wilder, the original Willy Wonka.
Okay,
yeah. Richard Pryor's hilarious. Still relevant. George Carlin, still incredibly relevant. And everybody is offended by Carlin, but everybody somehow knows he's right and laughs at Carlin. But Carlin is so funny and so to the point that it's borderline not comedy anymore. It's philosophy. Truly. It's that pointed.
Right.
But yeah, Robin Williams though, probably all-time favorite stand-up.
He was just funny in general. I don't think I've ever seen him in anything that I disliked.
Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy, and Richard Pryor, top 3 probably.
Eddie Murphy's pretty up there.
His stand-up was night and day funnier than anything he ever did in a movie.
But. Yeah. Trying to think, growing up, I watched more and this is probably just because of being in a household where I wasn't allowed to watch a lot of vulgar stuff, but when I think of stand-up, Gabriel Iglesias and Jim Gaffigan, which...
Jim Gaffigan is painfully unfunny to me.
I think he's hilarious.
His delivery is annoying as fuck.
He's the whitest comedian.
The whisper thing drives me crazy. I fucking hate that so bad.
He is very much he's very plain. His jokes are very plain.
Very dry.
Just And if you don't get it, you won't find him funny. Like,
I mean, I get it. It just never was like. I think Bill Burr is modern day George Carlin. Like,
Bill Burr's great.
Bill Burr is
Bill Burr is great.
And I know this won't be popular with some listeners, but I don't really give a fuck. Joe Rogan is incredibly fucking funny.
I've never really...
I know everybody wants to talk about his political stances and misinformation and all that shit. But him as a stand-up comedian is fucking amazing.
I've never listened to his stand-up, to be honest with you.
He's really good in the same sense that Bill Burr is, and it's always seems relevant.
Okay.
That makes sense, but so fucking good. And I can't believe we've had this conversation and not mentioned Dave Chappelle.
Oh, man.
Who has been canceled 100 times over. And everybody has a not great opinion of the man, but if you don't laugh watching Dave Chappelle, you're not a funny person.
Right.
I'm just going to say you're not a fun person to be around if you don't think Dave Chappelle's
That's fair.
Probably rot and also very funny.
I mean, I really remember him just from the Chappelle show. Like,
which
that was kind
every episode was like laugh till you hurt. Like every fucking episode was. Man.
I think that's all I got on
That's
comedians.
all I got, yeah. Watch more Dave Chappelle.
This is the last thing I want to say about it, and you can add anything else that you want, and that's perfectly fine. But I think that comedy is a dying art because people are so morbidly offended by everything. Like, if you can't laugh about it, you take it too seriously. There are some things that there are some things that I think are mostly untouchable. But in the same vein, like, if you laughing at it is kind of like coping with it.
Yeah, it's it's medicine. That's what it's supposed to be. Yeah. I mean, the things that are untouchable largely, unless it's a black comedian, and sometimes that's arguable too, depending on how far they go. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm probably not listening to D.L. Hughley. But like, I don't want to hear too much about race, to be honest with you. Like, I'm uncomfortable by that. I don't identify with that. Don't like it. But outside of that, fucking fair game. I mean, if you can't laugh about it, like, I mean, it is a coping mechanism.
Right.
And like, funny is not supposed to be right all the time. You know what I mean? Like, and like, I think we've had a lot of people ruin their careers over it. Like, I remember being a kid and how much I loved Jon Stewart, and like listening to him now and how painfully unfunny he is. Like, it's not even like, it's always some type of commentary now. Like, like to the point that it's like unlistenable. You know what I mean? And it's not because of his political stances, although I'm sure people will blame it on that. But it's like to the point that it's like, all right, we've heard this before. Yeah. Like, you know. But like, yeah, I mean, it's supposed to make you uncomfortable, right? Like,
at least
it's
a
supposed
little
to be
bit.
thing like you're not really. It's not. You know, it's not okay to laugh at, but it's so just like, okay,
right?
you know what I mean? Like,
it's the thought of like, it is told in the form of a joke because
it is in fact a joke.
Right.
These people don't actually feel this way.
Right.
Like,
it's not necessarily. It's taking things too seriously. That's the problem. We are taking jokes too seriously. Jokes are supposed to be funny. You're supposed to laugh at. You're supposed to understand that it's not serious. It's not like you were talking about dead baby jokes. Like,
there's nobody that feels that way.
There are no
sane person.
No sane people.
Yeah.
There are some very fucked up people in the world, but like it is a joke. It is not intended for you to be like, oh wow, you believe that you should shove a baby in a blender? Like, no, that's not my. No, it's supposed to be like,
yeah. I mean, it's like, you know, those things are definitely like those things are definitely meant to offend. Like, jokes like that, and I admit that. But like, the majority of stand-up comedy is like, it's just supposed to be fun, man. Like, it's okay. Just laugh at it.
It's okay to laugh at. I think it's insecurity, like significantly, like.
Victimhood and insecurity is fashionable at the moment.
Can we just continue our old person stance and blame the internet?
In a lot of ways we could. you know what I mean?
I blame the internet for a lot of the shitty things that people do.
I mean, that's like, funny is just funny. That's all there is to it. You ain't got to read too much into it, man. Like, that person doesn't hate you just because he made a, white joke or a fat joke or something like that. Like, it's okay. Like, maybe it'll build some awareness.
Right.
you know what I mean? Like,
what gets me is like if a fat person makes a fat joke, it's self-deprecating.
Yeah.
And if a skinny person makes a fat joke, it's offensive.
Yeah.
But it's okay to laugh at the self-deprecating joke because
you're laughing at somebody's insecurities.
Yeah.
And there's like some stuff.
And most people are insecure about that stuff, even if they tell jokes about it.
Yeah.
Most people aren't just like, oh yeah, I'm fat and
they're probably telling the joke. They tell the joke to cope. I mean, I've been the fat funny kid before. It was my middle school experience.
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just part of it, right? Like, but like nobody actually hates you just because I made a joke about it. It's pointing out something that was funny, and that's it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's helped me. That's helped my mental health out of a lot. Like, people joking around with me, like, I don't have to take it so seriously. Like, embrace it.
When you make people uncomfortable to say a joke around you because you're emotionally unstable, that's more of a reflection of you than them.
For sure. Yep.
Not to get super philosophical or anything at the end of the podcast.
Just fucking laugh.
Yeah.
Just laugh about it. Yeah. 100%.
It's okay to have fun and be jolly.
That's the reason why everybody dumped on Chappelle, though, is like, because he's talking about these things that are like, they're culturally relevant and they seem very like, they are relevant to the time and stuff, but they seem very like, it'd be easy to construe it as being offensive, but really the man's just pointing out all these weird dichotomies and double standards and things like that in life that are kind of honestly meant to be laughed at.
Right.
Like, I mean, but people are weird, dude. And the internet has made us weirder. It's made us all narcissists, to be honest with you.
A little bit.
It's
definitely,
especially social media is definitely like, give people an inflated sense of self, for sure. We all matter a lot more than we think we do. In the same sense, we matter a lot less than we think we do. And that's the truth. Like, the people around you, inner circle stuff, you matter a lot more than you probably realize. And then in the great scheme of things, though, in a worldwide view, you really don't mean nothing. And that's that's a very philosophical outlook, but the world's going to continue to spin with or without you. People close to you are going to miss you, that kind of thing. But like, I mean, like, none of it is as serious as people want to make it.
Yep.
Just laugh.
There's a reason why we pay people to make us laugh. The reason why we spend money.
And then you want to shun them after you paid to listen to them.
Yeah.
Like,
it's weird, right? That's a very weird, like, especially people who actively go to comedy clubs. They're like, I want to pay to laugh at something. And like, let's say it's just like they have random people show up, like they have a schedule or whatever, and they don't always have the same people or whatever. And like, you go there to laugh, but you get offended at some joke that somebody meant. It's like, that's not what you paid. Did you pay to go to be offended? Like, if you did, you should go somewhere else, because like, I can assure you can find a much more offensive place. You could go to any bar and just listen to people talk, and you would probably be more offended than
absolutely.
If that was your goal. But like,
I don't know. I would rather it just be funny. Just everybody laugh about it. You know what I mean?
I would rather just not take it seriously and laugh about it. Like, even stuff that, like, trying to think of something that's pretty like sensitive to me, like if someone came up to me and said, "Hey, skinny kid, how you doing?" In
the right context, it's probably funny.
Like, even
you don't want to just sit there and get your balls busted about.
Well, even if they were being an asshole, I just kind of like, haha, I'm not skinny. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I remember when I was skinny, I did used to be skinny. Now I'm not, haha. Or if they said, "Hey, fatty, how's it going?" I'd be like, "Oh man, I have put on a little weight."
Damn, I can't see my abs, but I can break you over my knee.
I jiggle a little bit when I walk. When I sit down, I got a little move going on. Like, that's whatever. Like, it doesn't bother me.
I mean, it is. I mean, those are things I can improve about myself. I am fat.
Yeah,
but like,
but it's just like the getting upset about it if they're just kind of like you're on a bulk. Hey,
I promise you, I have beat myself up much worse about this stuff than you're going to be able to do.
Yeah.
Like, I promise.
Significantly.
Like,
so it's like,
come on.
And it's like, it's that same thing. Like, someone in social media or whatever, like, "Oh man, gym bros take themselves too seriously. Oh, powerlifting's gay." I had somebody comment that under one of my posts or whatever, "Powerlifting is gay," and I was just kind of like, okay.
Big deal.
You think it's gay? What's wrong with being gay?
Being, mostly naked with a spray tan and a thong on stage. That's perfectly straight.
That's incredibly straight.
That's incredibly straight.
I mean,
I like what is somebody sent me was it was the guy, it was one of the guys kind of like, he kind of does what Joey Swole does and like exposes people in a sense. But it was one of the I Live for Aesthetics kids talking about how useless like strength is above a certain point and stuff like this. And the dude's just like, the dude that does the cuts just like, just say you're not strong. It's like,
it's okay.
Just say you're not strong. It's fine. Like,
I remember that.
That's like the biggest fucking like gym conflict I see now is like
the aesthetic.
But I don't want to look like that. Well, that's fine. There's a million powerlifters that look better than you.
Right.
But
I don't.
Nah.
I mean, that just.
I'm a personal trainer with a million clients that look better than I do. Like,
right.
I'm aware. Like, shut the fuck up. Right. Like,
I think that's enough ranting.
That's enough ranting for sure. Also, aesthetics are made in the kitchen.
This is true.
You should be in the gym to better your athleticism and strength. That's how you become more athletic via diet and exercise.
Yep.
Chase them numbers, baby. Eat them calories correct. You'll look better. You'll be stronger. And then you can be aesthetic and don't have to be the aesthetic guy that complains about strong people not being aesthetic.
I don't want to go on to another tangent, but someone made a post on some meme, and I really didn't want to reply to it, but I did anyway. But it was some skinny kid, and they were like, it was like, the meme was about coming back to the gym after the holidays or whatever, and he was like, I didn't skip the gym. My diet was kind of shitty, but you know what? For some reason, I was stronger in my lifts, and I was like, it's not weird that happened. You ate in a calorie surplus and had more carbs. You had more fuel for your workouts, and you recovered better. That's called bulking. like I was just so dumbfounded at the fact that he found it quote unquote odd that he ate more food and his lifts were better. It's like these people have never consumed any sort of fitness content that is relevant to like
my
anything.
Favorite thing ever is the do it then meme.
Yeah.
Well, I could do this if.
Okay.
I could do it then.
Yeah. They
do it.
That they got the really shittily drawn face, and it's like right up in their face, and it's like, do it.
Fucking do it then.
So do it. Just go do it. I mean, I've said that to people I consider friends too.
That fucking. Oh yeah.
like I could do this if, and I was like, so do it.
That fucking crowd though. I could make a whole episode. We could do a whole episode of that. Maybe we should.
Maybe we should
do a tangential episode about the aesthetic crowd.
There'd be a lot of ripping into those people, I think. And I think me and you both would get a lot of joy.
Yeah, the problem is this crowd is they're not bodybuilder body types. Like they're not big people. There were probably thin people that started with abs and got a little veiny when they did a bicep curl.
Yeah, and they got really excited.
And that's cool. Like, I mean, I guess, if they're really, in there for your health and stuff like that, body composition should be a goal, 100%.
But also when you're...
but as a coach, I see the same people complain about, oh, this isn't getting any bigger. I really want... I really want bigger triceps, want a bigger chest. Like, man, you need to do some compound movements. You ain't got a bench press, but like, maybe you should, pick up something heavier than the 40s on dumbbell incline.
Maybe you should eat.
Maybe you should eat a little bit more. Like, oh, well, I just don't have this, don't have that going for me. Well, I mean, like, I want a bigger back. Have you done, I mean, like, listen, dude, you weigh 175 pounds. You should do some pull-ups.
Yeah.
You can do them. Oh, I could just do too many. Weight them.
Yeah.
You can't weight them. Maybe you should, chase the number on the lat pull down for a little while or something. Like, do some bent over rows.
Do some barbell rows.
Like, they don't want that answer, though. They want, they want to stay on their machines. And
you know what answer they want? Hey, here's some steroids. That's the answer that
they want. An easy answer. They may not necessarily want that, but they want an easy answer.
No, well, that is the quote-unquote easy answer. Yeah, it's in everybody's mind, that's the easy answer, is just to do steroids. But,
whatever. Okay.
I'm over it. I'm done.
That's the show, y'all. Bye.
We did an outro.
Oh, shit. We did an outro. That's not the show, guys. Don't go. You can follow us at Sip It and Rip It, at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios. You can watch us on YouTube, listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere you really get your podcasts. Doesn't matter. Leave likes, comments, rate us 5 stars, rate us 1 star. Just give us some attention. Doesn't really matter.
We got our first 4-star rating.
A 4-star rating?
Yeah. It was really weird.
I feel like if you do more than 1 or less than 5, you really had to think about it.
Yeah.
you know
like,
what I mean?
Why did we not get the 5th star? Why didn't they tell us?
I would have liked to have had some feedback on that.
If you felt the need to be 4 instead of 5, what could we do better?
I feel like I said, 2 through 4 are thought of answers.
Right. 1 is I hated it. I just don't like it. 5 is I listened to it. I listened to it. I liked it. I support these guys. No big deal. We're going to give them 5 stars because we like them. We didn't really think about this, but 2 through 4, like 5. You came up with that answer. Right. You know what I mean? There was something. Was
it Chris Treese?
I wouldn't.
Chris gets really mad about it is what it is because he has a boss that says it all over all the time. Like,
I wonder also if
Chris also fuels our alcoholism, so I'm not gonna bust Chris.
I don't know if Richard ever gave us a rating, but I could very easily see him changing a rating to like a 3 or a 4 and saying mid.
Richard Culver. I thought you were talking about Richard.
Oh, Richard. Yeah, Culver. I'm sorry. Yeah. Did I say niece?
No, I don't think you did. But you just said Richard, so I was trying to.
Yeah,
Richard would do that just to
piss us off.
I don't know if it wouldn't piss me off, but I feel like
well to like joke around or whatever.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean because I'm not going to lose sleep over a 4-star rating or anything for a podcast with 30 listeners.
Well, actually,
the
metrics have shown we're at like 120.
What? That's literally 10 times what we were 6 months ago.
Yeah. I can't remember if that was monthly or if that was the most I know it wasn't the most recent episode, it was 120, but I think it was up.
Man, maybe in a year we'll have 150. Maybe 200. Maybe 1,000.
Can you imagine?
1,000 listeners?
We might have to actually put in some effort.
I feel like we do pretty good.
I think
the bar thing was relevant.
I think sometimes we do and sometimes we don't.
And anabolics are always relevant to powerlifting. I feel like we covered some relevant stuff today.
Nothing was irrelevant, except for maybe tangents and dad jokes.
Yeah, we probably didn't have to talk about our favorite stand-up comedians.
We probably did.
Go on a diatribe about funny's funny, leave it alone. You know what I mean? Like,
we probably didn't have to make fun of. Well, yeah, we kind of did have to make fun of the aesthetic crowd.
I really could do a whole episode on the aesthetic crowd, probably. It's not really an indictment of them. I mean, I think it's fine. I think it's a perfectly reasonable goal.
Yeah, I mean,
I think their open criticism of everybody else is odd.
Yeah, odd is nice. Odd is a nice way of putting it. Anyway,
all right, that's the show, guys. Bye, y'all.
For real this time.
For real this time. Yep.